2022. It is the 10 o'clock hour. The Board of Supervisors of the County of Del Norte and the governing body of all other special assessment and taxing district for which said board so acts is now meeting in regular session. Only those items that indicate a specific time will be heard at the assigned time. All other items may be taken out of sequence to accommodate the public and staff availability. So we'll call this meeting to order, and Kylie, would you please take roll?
Supervisor Howard? Present. Supervisor Starkey?
Here.
Supervisor Short?
Here.
Supervisor Maston?
Here.
Chair Hemmingson?
I'm here. And now we will please take a moment of reflection. And now if you'll all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Introduction of new employees.
Yes, Chair, we have the Director of Parks and Building Maintenance here.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
Here I have two of our newest employees. We have Josh Graves, came to us from Wisconsin about 4 years ago, decided to stay here and raise his family. We have Chris Skinner. He actually drives all the way down from Cape Ferrello every day.
Wow.
Both young people, very energetic, very excited to work, both doing great. I do have one third person who works night shift who obviously can't be here because he's sleeping, Zach Featherstone, that he is one of our night shift custodians. And I'll say, let these guys have a word.
Great, welcome.
I would just like to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to work for Parks Maintenance, well, facility maintenance now. It is definitely something that I look forward to making a career and supporting my family. So
Great.
Thank you very much.
Glad to have you.
I'd not only like to thank you for the opportunity to work for this facility, but I'd like to thank you for the opportunities from working for this facility. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
They told me they had half-hour PowerPoint presentations.
Any other?
Yes, Chair, we have the Assistant Director of Health and Human Services here as well.
Oh,
Morning,
I see.
Board. C. Tao, Assistant Director for Health and Human Services. Joining me here today, we have Angela Schaefer. She is our Client Services Specialist in our Behavioral Health Branch. Angela was with our department a number of years ago, and she has come back to us. Yeah.
Great.
So we're happy to have her here.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else? Any other employees, Neil? None?
Sorry, Chair, no, that's
Okay,
it. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, any actions from closed session, County Council?
Yes, Chair. The board did vote to assign its rights in litigation arising out of the Slater fire to Cal OES. Supervisors Hemmingson, Howard, and Short were in favor. Supervisor Starkey was opposed, and Supervisor Maston abstained.
Thank you. At this time, I would request any deletions, corrections, or addition from board members to the agenda. In order to add an item to the agenda, the matter must have come to the attention of the county subsequent to the posting of the agenda, and the matter requires action before the next regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Are there any such items? Seeing none, we will move on to brief reports or announcements from supervisors, what they've been doing for the last couple of weeks. And we're going to start with Supervisor Maston.
Okay, I did attend a meeting with the Yurok tribe and the National Telecommunications and Information Administration on the award of $61 million of fiber optic broadband for high speed that they're going to connect 62 miles from Crescent City to Oric. This will provide for 200 jobs in the process. It's a wonderful thing that will add 1,000 homes 110 businesses and 18 anchor institutions. So great opportunity for us in Del Norte County. It'll provide the ability for connectivity in the Birch Truck area and in the Klamath Glen and the Requa area also that have had very poor connectivity access to date. So had an opportunity to meet with Superintendent Harris and the Yurok Tribe and Margaret Keating principal to talk about the additions of new staff and the psychologists and for full-time. We talked about bullying and language addition as well as moving the Boys and Girls Club to Margaret Keating so that it'd be easier for the students. We talked about the Promise Neighborhood grant and the additional resources that that would bring to Margaret Keating and to Crescent Elk. I did a follow-up meeting then with the principal at Margaret Keating to talk in more detail about the needs specifically at the school for the teachers and the parents and students, and the need to connect human resources with the students at the school. Talked about them splitting the 3rd and 4th grade, which will be beneficial to the students at the school, and they wanting to bring back K through 8 to the school and for sports to be brought back to the school. So they were great meetings. Took a tour of the dog pound and kennels and the grounds out there for the livestock after the report when we had the discussion of moving the services from ag to the sheriff's department. Was able to meet a lot of the volunteers and see them in action with training the dogs and with actually doing maintenance and doing some real work out there that normally you would see staff do, but the volunteers are doing themselves with cleanup and the maintenance work there. It was quite impressive, but quite disheartening to see the lack of maintenance and work that needs to occur for health and safety and just code issues out there. There's a lot of work that needs to occur there, and we need to put some priority in that, and looking forward to the maintenance report coming back because we need to put some dollars there to improve that facility. Met with some Klamath residents regarding access to the community center and concerns about that, and we'll be following up with them to address those issues. Had an opportunity to tour Ruth Camp with Daphne from Mission Possible and Supervisor Short and the property owners Cordelia and Roy Ruth. Did see some improvement from the month and a half ago when I did a tour there in that they did open up a roadway so at least emergency services could, have access to the property. They talked about planning to meet with the residents there to limit access of vehicles and new vehicles and RVs coming into the compound because we raised it as an issue of concern, and especially for the residents, I raised the residents' concerns that live near the entrance of that camp and about vehicles being left near the entrance of the camp, that's a great concern. They raised the issue of wanting to see about getting dumpsters there and recycling to be able to begin to utilize that. They want to be able to bring showers and composting toilets to the area too. And they are talking about holding a meeting with the people who live there to see about the possibility of them co-paying to be able to bring some of those facilities in. And so they're hoping to do that in the next week. And Supervisor Short was sure to raise the amount of money of what the county's already spent there to do the massive cleanup in the past, and that it really was the responsibility of the people staying there. They really need to come up with the money to be able to address those issues that are there. They need to be helping to find those solutions. and they thought that those residents would be willing to help police the area for making sure that, that additional vehicles and RVs didn't come into the area. So we'll see where that goes. I'm interested in staying in touch with them to ensure that we try to find solutions to address the concerns there. My interest is also in that the taxpayers who live next door to this compound have to deal with what's occurring there also, and they deal with the day-to-day the garbage that gets dumped there, the day-to-day of vehicles that get left there, the day-to-day of mental patients going by threatening to kill them, and no one should have to live under those circumstances. And so, I feel that we all need to look for solutions, and I'm committed to, as a representative for that district, to help find solutions for that issue. Did attend the Lincoln Reagan dinner at the fairgrounds this past weekend, and enjoyed being a part of those activities, and it was a good event. I enjoyed it. I was glad that I was able to attend. Attended the Capital Improvements Committee, which I'm sure we'll be reporting out, so I won't cover that here for that, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Supervisor Starkey.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to power through this because it's been 3 weeks since we all met together before. If you want further information about what I actually did in these meetings, please reach out to me. I did attend a closed session meeting to interview candidates for the Child Support Services. We were able to select a very well-qualified candidate for that position. I met with Jermaine Brubaker to talk about medicated assisted treatment, which is something result of the opioid crisis, and that we've got to kind of pivot and look at different ways in which we can help people get off opioids. I attended the Redwood Region RISE session, and it's just talking about the California Economic Recovery Funds and how we are one of 4 counties we've got divided into with Humboldt and Lake and Mendocino, and how as a region we can come up with sustainable businesses that will work for our region. So I'm involved in that. I attended the monthly Chamber of Commerce meeting. We are continuing to do great stuff there. I stopped by the adoption event at Animal Services put on by the Humane Society and the Dogs of Del Norte. I understand that possibly 2 or 3 dogs were adopted out of that event, so I can't thank you enough for doing that. I hosted a community meeting down at Preston Island in response to some of the neighbors in that area concerned about graffiti and loitering and encampments. So we got together and put our heads together. We're going to be, that's another item on the agenda a little bit later that I'll go into detail when we get to that. I attended the special board meeting to discuss the salary of the new Child Support Services Director. I met with Charlene Mazie of the Del Norte Senior Center. I continue to advocate for us to have more programming and availability for our seniors up here in Del Norte County. We seem to be lacking in that. I'm learning that my hands are kind of tied, but I'm still not going to give up. If anybody that knows me knows I don't stop. I attended a special session called Reaching Rural, Advancing Collaborative Solutions, and it's a federal program that really focuses on rural communities and different programs that we can do in our rural community. It's federally funded, and so a group of us attended that, and then we met the following day to discuss whether or not that program would work for us. So thanks to County Council, 2 representatives from DHHS, and a public defender, we are going to move forward with that to see if we can't put our name in the hat to be selected for that. I participated in a beach cleanup with the building maintenance department, the 2 gentlemen that you just met right here. I got to work alongside them. We ended up cleaning up the area from Preston Island down to Del Monte, so it's a clean slate. So now I'm going to be encouraging the neighbors in that area to be participating in that cleanup as it goes on, so that once a month we can all meet down there and clean up the area, just so that we are doing our fair share, whether or not people believe in that or not. But I think that we pick up after other people. That's unfortunate, but we have to. I attended a behavioral health collaborative session. It's for the mobile crisis unit. We are looking to get that grant that will come here to this community. So I am working with them, DHHS, to do that. It's fascinating and fabulous, and that'll be something that really will help our law enforcement as well, because we can mobily respond to the crisis situations. So perhaps we don't have to arrest individuals. We can get them the help that they need on scene. I met with Sheriff Scott, Under Sheriff Perry, and Ag Commissioner Riggs to talk about the possible transition of animal services and where I can be of assistance in helping facilitate that transition. So I do want to offer that if the board would like to entertain placing a supervisor on that particular project, I am available. I am retired, Mr. Bowers. I am retired. I have the energy. I'm willing to do that. So I'm certainly want to volunteer for that if I would be of assistance to Sheriff Scott and Ag Commissioner Riggs. I met with the superintendent of the roads department so he could explain to me the process of repaving and chip sealing. All too often we feel like the roads department isn't doing anything, but it's such a long process and different things. So he gave me a tutorial on that. I met with L&L Construction, Benji and Jeremy LaFazio, to talk to them about donating some of their time and equipment to removing some of the cement that is out at the dog pound. It's uneven, it's dangerous. They have agreed to donate their time, so I'm waiting to coordinate that with them to get that cement removed. I watched a recording of the Del Norte Planning Commission meeting. I attended a visitor bureau meeting, and we continue to show impressive numbers with regard to people wanting to come to Del Norte County. I received a lot of calls and emails regarding item 26 on the agenda today, and we will get to that as we get to that part of the agenda. I received a few calls regarding Del Norte Ambulance and people's opinion on the exclusive operating agreement. That continues to be a discussion. I received lots of calls about monoclonal treatment. I felt it was important to notify you guys here today, if you hadn't already heard, that the monoclonal treatment that for COVID has been removed from our community, and because there's other medication that is available. So the state had provided that additional treatment, but that's no longer available locally, but there are other medications. And then I received information regarding the passage of SB 1338, which is going to be a number that we all are going to be embedded in our minds because it is the CARES Court. Del Norte County has been excluded from the implementation for this first year, but we're going to be monitoring that very closely to find out ways in which other counties are having to implement the CARES Court and how we can kind of replicate some of their things. And then finally, I spent a lot of time reviewing some of the draft versions of the newly created SOPs from the Animal Control Division. Big shout out to Brittany Pratt for putting all that work into it and getting the ball rolling so that there is some more organization out at Animal Services. That's my report. Sorry I talked so fast.
Thank you for that brief report. Supervisor Short.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since our last meeting, I also participated in the interviews for the position of Child Support Services Director. We're happy with the choice that we made, and even heard from some staff from Child Support Services, and they're saying that they're pretty happy with our decision as well. I appreciated that. Participated in a meeting of the Tri-Agency, participated in a meeting of the North Coast EMS Joint Powers Authority, participated in a Del Norte Local Transportation Commission meeting, and I'm happy to say that there will be a project initiation document started by Caltrans for the construction of a roundabout at the intersection of Elk Valley Crossroad and 199. So hopefully that will result in fewer accidents and fatalities at that location. It's a long time coming. As Supervisor Maston said, we attended a meeting with the Ruth family and Daphne Lambert. I won't belabor that anymore, as Supervisor Maston gave a great report. Participated in agenda review for this meeting, listened in on the Planning Commission meeting, and also participated in the Capital Improvements Technical Advisory Committee meeting. And that is all for me.
Thank you. Supervisor Howard.
Thanks, Chair Hemmingson. Had several discussions with Keith Taylor post his visit. He was from the University of California, Davis, and he's an economic development specialist. He's here to do a lot of pre-work in recognition of a new hire. Alec Domka will start here in October of 2022. He'll be our new economic development specialist for the region of Trinity, Humboldt, and Del Norte, but be stationed here in Del Norte. Also, as Supervisor Short mentioned, attended a tri-agency meeting where we discussed solutions to our debt service that we have with USDA, hoping to have a meeting in the near future specific with the harbor, the city, and the county where we could all come together to have this discussion to resolve the issue. Also, as mentioned, the special board meeting to hire child support services, and attended a CSAC board meeting in Sacramento. A great deal of discussion was had around Proposition 31, an issue that we just most recently took up. CSAC had a recommendation of support. It was quite a lengthy debate, but in the end, CSAC voted to support the position of Prop 31. In addition, there was a lot of discussion, as recently messaged by Supervisor Starkey. As you're aware, the Board of Supervisors here took on the issues of the care court, especially around rural communities here in the state of California. Care court, as the legislation originally started out, really came with no money. It came with language that was not good for rural California, and more importantly, it came with a lot of sanctions, so penalties if rural California in particular wasn't able to implement a lot of the care court legislation. Where it hits us is really around folks that are mentally ill and the challenges with incarceration around folks that are mentally ill and that population in our community. By the time our lobbies, both RCRC and CSAC, took charge of these issues and began discussions with our state legislature, we were able to get a significant amount of dollars into this program, which didn't exist. We're able to get extensions, as mentioned by Supervisor Starkey. So implementation for Del Norte County will not occur until 2024. There'll be 7 counties that will run a pilot program that we can pay attention to, some rural that we'll definitely look to learn from. But in the end, it was a compromise between rural California, the governor, and the state legislature on well-needed legislation that addresses housing and homeless issues in the state of California. Attended a meeting of the Del Norte Senior Center where we had a great deal of discussions around finding ways to secure more grant funding, similar to the discussions that Supervisor Starkey mentioned. Also, as mentioned by Supervisor Short, attended the Del Norte Local Transportation Commission meeting. Very happy that Caltrans is now stepping in on 199 Elk Valley Crossroads. Originally, we had put up our ARP funding to actually leverage the money that Caltrans would need to do the construction of this facility. In the end, Caltrans felt that because it was a safety issue, if they didn't fund it solely, they wouldn't be doing their job. So glad to see Caltrans step up and do that work. Attended a meeting for Supervisor Hemmingson in his absence, North Deal meeting. Had a great deal of discussion around some new broadband legislation, which requires Caltrans to put conduit in any section of road that's under construction. Happy to see that occurring. Had a great deal of discussions around Gasky, Hyuchi traffic calming projects through those communities, not only with Caltrans, but also with neighbors and also the Del Norte Local Transportation Commission, lead Tamara Layton. Had a discussion with Antonio Villaraigosa. He was mayor of LA for quite some period of time. He is now the czar, infrastructure czar for the state of California, sitting over a substantial pot of money that Governor Newsom has allocated towards infrastructure development and expediting projects in the state. It was an interesting discussion because I've had these meetings before, but not with somebody of his caliber, on how projects get done in an expedited fashion. It seems like for instance, last chance grade, we have project completion date of 2035. For all of us here, we know that's absolutely unreasonable. But the majority of what goes into the development of those documents before any shovel is put in the ground is addressing CEQA and NEPA. How they've been able to address some of those issues, and most likely by why Mr. Villaraigosa was put in this position, is because the city of LA found ways to navigate CEQA and NEPA to implement their projects in a more expedited fashion. And Governor Newsom wanted that at the helm when they're implementing these programs that are backed by about $100 billion of our taxpayer money. So it should be interesting to see how this rolls out. And as mentioned by everybody, had a lot of conversation about an agenda item today, as it relates to animal control and euthanasia. So looking forward to that discussion. Supervisor Hemmingson?
Thank you, Supervisor Howard. As was mentioned earlier, along with the rest of the supervisors, we had interviews for the Child Support Services Director. I thought that went fairly well. I think our choice was good. So we'll hopefully get that taken care of today. I had a Norte meeting in Anderson. Had an NCRP meeting that was held virtually. And I was gone for a couple of weeks on a trip to Montana and back, so I'd like to thank Supervisor Short for filling in for me for agenda review, and Supervisor Howard for filling in for the North Deal meeting. I know that puts a stress on everybody's schedule when supervisors are gone, so I do appreciate anybody that filled in for me. I met with some constituents, staff, Fish and Wildlife over issues around hunting at Lake Earl. And as was mentioned by everybody else, I've fielded numerous calls and emails around our dog shelter and the resolution that we're going to be discussing later, item number 26. And that's it for me. So now we're going to move on to public first timed item, which is public comment. If I can get to my stuff here. Members of the public may address the board on matters which are within the jurisdiction of the board. If you're addressing the board regarding a matter listed on the agenda, you may be asked to hold your comments until the board takes up that matter. You will be limited to 3 minutes. Is there any public comment? Please.
I'm retired from law enforcement, and as an officer, you're expected to have higher standards. With that said, Mr. Howard, you have no military time. You have no law enforcement under your belt. You've been fed a silver spoon all your life, and it affects the decisions you make for this county financially. Additionally, it is rumored that you are emotionally abusive to your wife. I never believed that until August 25th at the tri-agency meeting, where you began screaming at me during my public comment, calling me a liar and that I misinformed the public. I consider you a threat to my personal safety. I am not a creative writer. I am a technical writer. The information I write in my articles come directly from this county's legal documents. If you don't want the public to know what is occurring in our county, I suggest you change the words in the documents that the county possesses. As for you, Mr. Howard, you are a disgrace to this county based upon your out-of-control, abusive behavior towards an elderly woman. I believe that it's only a matter of time before the entire county will see your true colors. Knowing this makes me think maybe you should stop dropping Brian Dowell's name, because I don't think he would want to be associated with someone who's as abusive as you are to public members. Chair Hemmingson, I request that you take Chris Howard off the tri-agency board. He is disrespectful and abusive towards elderly members of the public, and you may not think I matter, but I'm here to tell you that I do matter. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I was just wondering, do we have a code of conduct for the Board of Supervisors?
That's interesting, because that question has come up several times. I'm not sure if we ever put one in place. Council, do you recall?
It has been discussed a few times in the past. There may be some kind of vague language in the admin manual, but there's nothing like a strict code of conduct.
Because I would like for us to put it on the agenda for discussion, because I'd be willing to serve on an ad hoc committee to develop a code of conduct for the Board of Supervisors.
I'll keep that under advisement. Anything, anybody else? Any other public comment? I'm going to close the public comment period then, and we're going to move on. Oh,
I mean, we have a number of people here that would like to talk about the benefits of short-term rentals. Do we want to do that now, or do we want to do that at a certain point in the agenda?
I believe there's an item on the agenda that Supervisor Maston brought up, so we'll be
So
talking
we'll all
about-
do it later?
Yes,
Okay.
please, if you don't mind. You're going to be here. Okay, we're going to move on to the 10:30 timed item, item number 19, which is to open the public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing for the 2022-2023 fiscal year recommended budget as amended and all special district budgets covered by Del Norte County for 2022-2023 fiscal year as submitted, and continue the hearing for 14 days as requested and presented by the County Administrative Officer and Auditor Controller. Number 2, approve attached list for establishing 13 general fund positions, eliminating 4 general fund positions, reclassifying 1 general fund position, and adjusting salary ranges for 17 general fund positions. The position classification and/or status change for the risk management analyst from mid-management to confidential, and the OES coordinator from exempt to non-exempt, and authorize human resources to revise the staffing chart as necessary. That's on attachment A. And 3, accept the recommended children's budget as presented. That's attachment B, as requested by the County Administrative Officer and Auditor Controller. Neil, you got anything to add?
Nope, I do not. Thank you, Chair and Supervisors. As you just mentioned, this is required by government code. Before you today is the balanced budget for fiscal year 22-23. The final step in the annual budget process is a consideration and adoption of the 22-23 budget, special district budgets as well by resolution of the Board of Supervisors. This year's budget, it comes in at $181 million, close to $182 million. The general fund budget is just shy of $39 million. Individual budgets have been provided to the Board of Supervisors through the budget package today for the public to review as well. Non-general fund budgets and special district budgets are also presented today. And this process is to open the 14-day public hearing per government code with the intent of bringing the final budget back to the board on the 27th for final adoption.
Thank you. Is there any public comment?
Chair, I have a hand raised online.
Okay.
Leslie, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic. The hand just went down, Chair. I don't know if that was an error.
Okay. Council, do we need to have a motion to approve the attached?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, just a minute. I'm asking
Okay.
council something.
Okay.
Excuse me. Do we need to approve the attached list and accept the recommended children's budget? Do we need to do that now?
I think it's agendized as one item, isn't it?
Well, it's,
Oh, yeah, but it's 3 items in one action. Yeah, I would just do it as one motion.
okay. So no public comment? I would entertain, oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Masson, you had something?
Yes, at the, when we held our last discussion on the budget, I had asked that we consider doing public hearing meetings on the budget. And I would like to ask again I would really appreciate the support of the supervisors to conduct budget hearing meetings. I've done some research on other counties and how they handle their budget hearings. And some of them have individual supervisor hearings over the budget. Some do 3 meeting days of budget hearings where the department managers come and answer questions from the residents and the supervisors, and they go through, and on the end of the 3rd day, they approve the budget. Some do 5 days of meetings, and then at the end of the 5th day, they approve the budget. but it provides opportunity for the residents to be able to ask the department managers questions and for the supervisors to ask questions. So it gives us an opportunity to do it any way that we want and doesn't require for all the supervisors to attend, but allows for residents to be able to get their questions answered by the department managers and allows for the supervisors to get their questions answered by the department managers. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us all to thoroughly understand the budgets. And when I went through the budgets, I have a lot of questions in several, almost all of the departments, and we can either do that today or we could schedule for some meetings in order to be able to do that. But I would greatly appreciate if you would support us holding those meetings, and not all the supervisors have to attend, you know, but I would like to be able to have meetings where the residents could be in attendance with me and whatever other supervisor wants to attend, and our department heads to go through the budget.
Supervisor Howard.
Chair, I'm just a little confused by the request. I thought that's why we have these discussions in open session in our board meetings, to have those very questions presented to our department heads when we have questions of those departments, which we have, what, roughly 27 plus departments in the county. I'm, for one, not in a position to begin to micromanage the specific detail of a department budget that comes to us. But when there is a question that occurs, we do have those questions and opportunities to that department head when those budgets have been presented to us. And in this case, we've been discussing this now for the last 4 months. So I guess my curiosity question, more so than anything, is it your intent to go into the detail because you want to split some hairs within their very limited budgets, whether it's general fund or whether state mandated funds, to really take some of that authority away from them, put more in the board's authority, which we do have ultimate authority of? I'm just curious what the ultimate intent is for an ad hoc committee to be formed that oversees a hearing, which basically this is what we're doing right now.
So we are not going into the budget details. We are taking some comments from members. We are not having the opportunity to ask the department managers questions, and neither are the residents in this county. We are only offered, the residents are only offered the opportunity to make comments. That does not give an opportunity for them to ask questions. Other counties provide that opportunity. It is not time consuming. These other counties are much larger and have much larger budgets than we have. And they provide that transparency and openness to their residents to be able to have this opportunity. And I, quite frankly, have questions about some of these things, and we are not given that opportunity. Not all of the department heads are here for us to ask those questions. That is not micromanaging. That is being fiscally responsible as a supervisor that oversees this government. And so, as being fiscally responsible, I have a responsibility to look at the budget in detail and have knowledge of what I am approving, and to be able to answer those questions to the residents of this county who do have questions and want them answered. And so that is the purpose of why I would like to be able to provide this opportunity to our residents as well as for myself.
So what prevents you from doing that right now?
We can, if you want to do that, because it will not happen in an hour.
Well, that's why we all get together every
are the
other
department
week
heads
to have these conversations while we're having these budget meetings. I
Well,
mean, that's the very purpose of this.
There's only
Sorry,
been
Supervisor.
one other time. This is our second time we have met on the budget, and not all the department managers are here. They were not all here at the last meeting. They are not all here today. But if we want to do that, I'd be happy to, because I just really would like your support on this. I'm not trying to be obnoxious, or I'm just really would like your support, because I'm trying to be responsible in my role as a supervisor and to understand this budget and to be able for the people who live in this county to understand the budget and for them to have meaningful dialogue in the, the approval of this budget, in the process of this budget approval.
And this is, we just opened the public hearing, and this is their process. If you don't understand the budget, you have the opportunity to go to any department head you want, ask the question, get the answer, and go from there.
With all due respect, Mr. Chairman, you're missing my point. And my point is that we give the transparency of our government and the approval of our budget to our residents, and at the same time that we as the supervisor have the opportunity to engage with our department heads and our residents at the same time. So we have the benefit to hear from the residents at the same time and can consider what they're saying in our decision making also. And I really would appreciate, I don't know what the resistance is, or why there is this, why no one wants, I don't understand the resistance, and maybe you could explain why there's this hesitancy, or why you don't want for this to occur. I don't understand the opposition to this request, because it's a reasonable request. Other counties offer this to their constituents, and they embrace it, in fact. And in fact, they even allow for the residents to come in prior to the budget process and meet with the managers and engage with what are programs that you want to see, what are we not doing, and what are some new ideas, so that that can be considered in the budget process for the next year. I mean, that would be a wonderful thing for us to be able to do for our residents, to be able to actively engage them in the process.
Yeah, you're totally, I think you're totally confusing things of what people want and what the budget is. We're proposing a budget that is put together by all the department heads, and all their requests are put together, put out there. Now we're putting it on in the public. You can look at the budget. I've asked for any public comments, and there's nothing. And you want to create a process that you say we're not transparent, and I think we're very transparent. The budget is there. You may look over it. You can ask questions of any department head, call them up at any time, and they will give you the answers. To bring that out to where you want special accommodations because you haven't gone through the process of going to all the department heads and get your questions answered, I don't think that's necessary to put that on the public where you're going to bring that out and create a whole other process. I'm not in favor of it. So if anybody else is...
I am, actually. I'm going to say that I think that a workshop would be good. I could go through, if you would like now, my laundry list of questions that I have. So it's just a matter if it's time now or how you want to do that. I certainly could...
This is the public...
All right, let's start it then. I will go with my first question. So I need to go here. So we did ask for more of a review process for the, it's available for the public review and an opportunity to request changes. So how does the public do that, Neil? How does the public, it says that they have to submit something in writing to the clerk of the board. What would that look like?
I don't know. It's never happened before, to tell you the truth. It's just something that's available to the public. I think it was just submitting a written document that says I have a question about this budget and this account or this department or this program. and submit it to the clerk in writing and signed by the person submitting it, and then it would be up for consideration by the Board of Supervisors.
Okay. On one of it, it says, in addition to revenue and expenditures are analyzed and based on known operational needs or legislative changes that affect departmental funding sources and uses. So that's not in detail anywhere, right? That's just a general statement.
Can you ask that question again?
Yeah, I mean, so the Board of Supervisor, I feel like before I can, approve anything, I really want to know all the background information. And I'm not doing it to make anybody, it's difficult for anyone, like Supervisor Maston has said. It's just a matter of me needing to understand so that I can be fiscally responsible to the citizens of this county. And I appreciate the fact that it's here. I mean, I've got so many questions, I don't know where to start. I want to start where we could have a workshop just on the CalPERS section alone. One paragraph could take a whole day for us to really explain and understand for the public, for me, all right, the person making this decision today. One of the ones here, it says the following two sections are specific to two general fund expenditures that represent significant year after year changes or significant individual account budgets. If I'm approving this entire budget, I'd like to know all of them, not just two. If they're here that over the past year, administrators has brought several opportunities to the board for redevelopment. What were they? What are they? I'd like to have an entire list on that. One of the most important thing that I want to talk about here is it says vehicle replacement, not including patrol, yet down here in the last thing says the request for fiscal year 22-23 due to the need for patrol vehicles is $200,000. It's confusing to me. So there is that. I also have a question here. Each year through the department requested budget process, departments are asked to include any fixed assets that need to be replaced. Written justification must accompany the request for consideration by the budget team, and typical requests are to address health and safety, operational needs, to improve services, update systems, or invest in assets that provide long-term benefits and cost savings to the county. As a board member, I only get to see what the budget team picked. I don't get to see all of them. So I absolutely believe that we need to be more in tune with this process, and that will be something I advocate for. I have advocated for it. Again, if you want to go time by time, or we can have a special workshop meeting where we can get all these answered. It's not to question how it's being spent, it's to understand it.
And so what attempt did you make? What attempt did you make to get those questions answered?
We get this agenda Friday afternoon, right? And I can answer all these myself, but then it's not clear to the public.
Yes.
And then I would have to go through and answer all these to the
Yes.
public.
You're telling me it's not clear to you.
No.
Yeah, no, it's not, Jerry. It's
Okay,
not.
well, but you just said they were clear to you, so I'm confused.
No, it's not. I mean, if I were to go and ask each individual department, hey, what did you put on the list that you wanted the budget team to consider that got denied? I could do that. I absolutely can do that. But then I only know the answer. I don't have that as a public process. I believe that we need to have a public process for this.
I don't know where we go with this now. I got no questions from the public at all on the budget. And because you bring up questions on the budget,
That's my job.
Yes.
your job is to find the answers to the questions and convey those to the public. That's my perception of it.
Okay.
The CalPERS thing is a very, very sophisticated and long process to understand. And I've been working at it for a long time, and I kind of understand what's going on. And none of it is good. I can tell you that right now. But it's something that we're obligated to do, and it's in the budget.
Okay. So one other question that I have here.
And I think to convey to the public who is right here that they have the opportunity to comment on the budget and we're not being transparent, I think it's insulting. At least it's insulting.
I don't ever say that it was not transparent, Supervisor Hemmingson. I did not say that. I just said that I would like to have a workshop to where we can all sit down and look at this. We can go through it and it's line by line. That's just what I was elected to do. That's what I plan to do. And so I do support Supervisor Maston's request to have a special meeting or a 2x2 or something sort of budget workshop that we can go through this and really understand it as a community. This is our community.
Okay. Great. If you and Supervisor Maston want to have, I guess that's okay?
Yes.
Council,
Yeah,
that they can have a workshop?
they can do a workshop, we can agendize it.
We have to, okay.
I mean, if the point is to do something with the public, agendizing it makes sense, but if it's an ad hoc committee, it's not necessarily required to agendize, but I mean, it is pretty common practice to do these in other counties, even the city, I think, does it, so I think it makes sense.
All right. Has anybody got a problem with Supervisor Maston and Starkey having a workshop with the public?
Nope.
Done?
Thank you.
Not a
I
problem?
appreciate that.
Okay. So with that, are we doing away with the motion of getting this thing going?
No, you still need to get it going,
Okay.
because we have to get this done by a certain date, and we've got to have the time period between.
I'm looking for a motion then?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second.
Yeah, I'd just like to note that we are opening a public hearing. We're not actually adopting the budget.
Exactly.
So that's what our action is today.
Exactly. Kylie, would you please poll the vote?
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Maston?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Okay, moving on to our 10:40 timed item. Mrs. Lopez, Treasurer Tax Collector, has a little presentation on our transient occupancy tax.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So it's been a while since I presented. I think the last time was the 16-17 fiscal year. There's been some changes, and I thought everyone in the public would like to see that. Okay, with that said, so like I said, I started the last presentation in our 2004-05 fiscal year, moving towards the 16-17. So starting 17-18 and to the end of this fiscal year 21-22, you can see a substantial growth in the revenue that we've received. 482,000 for 17-18, and then closing out for this fiscal year is a $906,000 in revenue. I did a quick little, I guess, survey of the TOT returns that we had for this end of this fiscal year. So this would be your quarter for April 1st through June 30th. And it was about a 52% occupancy rate with everyone that did submit that information on their returns. And I think that's pretty substantial considering that's not our, really hot quarter. So it'll be interesting to see what this summer was like. I know it's been really busy. I thought everyone would like to know that.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, so for registered owners, I kind of broke this out as best I could. Everyone's a little bit different. We have people registering with just single-family homes. Some of them are calling them cabins, so I lumped that into a single-family home since it's a one unit on a piece of property. We have second units, maybe some would consider ADAs or converted structures. We also have now RVs on people's properties they're renting that out as well. So I included that as a second unit. And then we have shared space, which just would be, the old school Airbnb renting a room from, the homeowner. And I included that in that second unit shared space. And then we have just our normal hotel, motel, and then we do have some multi-unit properties where a couple really neat places have cabins on one lot. And so I included that in there too. So not a huge change. I think the most significant change is that single family cabin section from the 79 from 2017 to about 140 right now. And I thought it would be interesting for the public to see, and you as well. I picked the areas in town which had the most condensed short-term rentals, and these are going to include hotels as well. And I apologize, my I didn't want to get, into too much privacy, but I did, so I didn't give everyone's address, if you will, but I thought it was interesting to note that we had about 31 properties that are just kind of right there along the beach, right on North Highway 101 North, sort of from Smith River going up to the Brookings area, which is a real popular area. Ocean View Drive is another popular area where we have the rentals, and then just the Smith River, I guess you would call Smith River proper, like Ship Ashore has some, and then just some homes within the little town of Smith River. And then this kind of took us out into the North Bank Road area, South Bank, there's 7 there, 11 on North Bank, Hyuchi, the town of Hyuchi, I counted about 12, and then a little hard to just kind of throw everyone together, but Lake Earl, Fort Dick, and the Parkway area, we have 43. In Gasky, we have 12. And then in town, so Pebble Beach Drive, this is not in the city limits. So Pebble Beach Drive, 21. And then I thought it was interesting to note too, there's, I think it's Del Monte and Freeman, some of those neat streets right there off the ocean there. There's quite a few rentals there. And then some downtown, obviously not city limits, there's not very many. And then not very many in Birch Ocean View, just about 8. And then in Klamath, we have 19. So I thought to the public, and you would like to see just sort of how the harbor's TOT revenue is going. It's looking pretty good for them as well. I think we have 21 RV parks registered. They're kind of just throughout the whole community. And, excuse me, they always submit their returns. It's 2% of that park space rent, so they're not enormous, but the revenue is going up. I don't know if the parks have increased their space rent. I think some of them have, so I'm sure that's a significant factor in that. But that $272,000 is going to be really helpful when they make those payments for the USDA loan. That was pretty much all I had. Just some real straightforward factual data for you guys to consider when making some other decisions later today. If you have any questions for me.
Very interesting. Supervisors, any questions?
Barbara, how many? You might not know this.
I'll try.
How many stick-built homes do we have in, what would be in that category of cabin / VRBO, which would be a traditional stick-built home? How many total in the county?
So I would be confident with saying the 140 would be your cabins, which some people are referring to just because of the style, and then the stick-built homes. The second unit would be maybe like a converted garage or an ADU or something like that. So I would feel confident with saying just like residential would be 140.
No, total.
Total.
Total homes.
Oh, for like on the tax roll?
Residents on the tax roll.
Oh my goodness. That would be a Jennifer Perry question, probably, the assessor's office. I bill out 15,000 tax bills. I would hate to venture to give a percentage of how much that is in, gosh, I don't want to guess. I can probably have my assistant do a quick little calculation and report back here before the end.
Last time I looked into this, there was over 6,000 stick-built residents in Del Norte County.
I would
so if you're
maybe
looking
say
at
more
a
than that.
percentage,
Exactly.
140 to 6,000.
Yeah, and these are all, you can just see the locations are also pretty specific to the, where people would like to stay on a vacation, near the beach and the rivers and whatnot. So.
I have a quick question. What's the process that somebody wants to apply to have their property be a vacation rental?
All we ask, if we haven't already found them, sometimes they'll get started, and then we have a great property program that will let us know when things go live. is that they just come into our office and register with us, give us as much detailed information as they can about their rental, what they anticipate the revenue is going to be, obviously when their first date of occupancy is going to be, if they're going to manage it, make sure we get all that correct information. And we always suggest that they go down to the planning department and just double check any kind of codes that they might need to adhere to, if there is any, whether they do or not, I'm not sure, but we don't require a sign off from our planning department for those.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sure.
Anybody got anything else? Barbara, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Very
My pleasure.
interesting,
Yeah.
good information to know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can we get copies of your report? Great, thank you.
Any public comment on this presentation?
Chair, I have one online.
Okay.
Robert, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Hi, this is Robert. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Hi, guys. I noticed Supervisor Howard brought up the ratio of homes that we have in our community to homes that are collecting occupancy tax. And, you know, I think that might be a little bit out of perspective. You know, the amount of homes available for rent for the person who works the retail and tourist sector, which is something our county invests into with Chamber of Commerce donations, is zero from what I understand today. You cannot find a home for rent today in Del Norte County. And that's because the Airbnbs seem to be so financially lucrative, I guess, right now. So zero compared to about 300 just on Airbnb. I'm not sure about VRBO. And then I looked at realtor.com and there's 150 available for sale to anybody who could afford them. I guess mostly people that are speculating on the vacation rental market. 150, or you could go rent one for the night for there's about 300 of them or so. And then of course more on VRBO. And that doesn't add up to the amount that are registered for paying the occupancy tax. You know, that wasn't like that when I moved here. Chris Howard knocked on my door this year at election season, and I brought up the short-term rentals, and, you know, I believe he runs 2 or 3 of them, which I hope will be seen as a conflict of interest when voting to regulate them, to recuse yourself from. And he brought up that there was only 17 when he started. So I think that's another number Supervisor Howard could consider, that there were 17 when he started and now there's several hundred. And we often say there's not enough private property in this community, right? No net loss. But there seems to be a conflict of interest for the county that wants this blank check for their general fund. There should be a no net loss for homes for people that need to live here. And also I had my hand raised at the last agenda item, and I felt that you know, I've seen this a few times now. It almost seems to be a boys' club against the women here. I too am, you know, 70% goes to law enforcement, and that seems to be something your staff wanted to tell you at one of the last budgets that I'm looking at too. You know, because you do put out the agenda on Friday, you do the weekend drop. And the community's not involved, and the community does not understand where all their money goes. And for some reason, the 2 women supervisors are the only ones who want to involve the public. They do that on their Facebook page, whether it's election time or not, trying to involve the public to see where the money's going. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Chair, if we could just give clarification, I see a lot of people wanting to stand up. And number 25 is, I think, the item that you guys are going to all want to talk on. If that's, I'm sorry to interrupt, but.
Okay. Okay, we're going to move on then to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Sorry. I wanted to poll some items.
Okay.
I wanted to poll 7, 8, 9, and 11.
Supervisor Masson, did you want to pull for discussion or pull for separate vote?
Poll for discussion. And it's only for, and I don't want to be reprimanded because it's to pull because the dates of, for the approval dates back to July 1. So yes, I could have asked the department head, but then I would know the answer, but no one, the public would not know the answer. And so I would like for the sponsor to just say the reason why it's just coming to us now when it's dated back to July 1st. And so that way everyone will know.
Yep, it's very standard for this to be done that way with state contracts. A lot of times we don't even get them before the start of the year, and it does make budget challenging, but that's just how it works.
Okay. And so that answers for 7, is that 7, 8, and 9?
Yes,
Yes,
those are
okay.
all state contracts.
Okay, thank you. And then for 11?
Supervisor Maston, the agreement is just part of our contract process, and like Justin said, it's one of an agreement that just gets held up during our process for us moving that forward. So that's why it's dated back to July 1, 2022.
Okay, so that's helpful. Thank you very much. And that was it. Thank you.
Okay, and number 12 is the same
Okay,
issue.
thank you. Okay.
Okay. Any public comment on the consent agenda?
I have a hand raised online, Chair.
Okay.
Robert, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic. Robert, are you there? I'm not sure if that was...
Hi, guys. I'm sorry, I didn't know I had my hand up. I didn't mean to.
It's okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't have any other online.
Okay. All right, seeing no other public comment, Kylie, would you please poll the vote?
Supervisor Maston?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes, I need to recuse myself on items number, item number 5 and item number 6. I do business with both of those entities. They are either a customer of mine or I'm a customer of theirs. So I need to recuse myself on those 2 items.
Okay.
Okay, and within the consent agenda, there was a proclamation that Supervisor Maston is going to read.
Okay, the proclamation of Recovery Awareness Month for September 2022, sorry. Whereas the ability to locate, access, and receive treatment for substance use disorders and tantamount to the overall health and well-being of Del Norte County, producing happier, healthier, and more productive individuals within our community. And whereas approximately 2.9 million Californians, 9%, aged 12 and older, had a substance use disorder in the past year, according to the California Healthcare Foundation, and our local behavioral health board and partnering agencies emphasize the importance of promoting awareness of and access to substance use disorder treatment and recovery services. Within the last fiscal year, Del Norte County Department of Health and Human Services Behavioral Health Branch received 217 unique clients in substance use disorders. And whereas, according to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, researchers have observed increases in substance use and drug overdoses in the United States since the COVID-19 pandemic was declared a national emergency in March 2020, and that almost 21 million Americans have at least one addiction, yet only 10% of them receive treatment. And whereas, according to Recovery Centers of America, The current estimated economic cost of untreated substance abuse disorder in the United States is approximately $3.73 trillion annually, and the disease of addiction does not discriminate. It can affect everyone regardless of their age, race, creed, lifestyle, or economic status. And whereas safe, effective, and life-saving tools are available to help individuals struggling with substance use, yet discrimination and stigma often factor into the reasons why people who need help do not seek care. The County of Del Norte observes Recovery Awareness Month every September to raise awareness and understanding of recovery from substance use disorders, to increase access to addiction recovery services by highlighting the benefits of recovery and offering hope to those in need. And whereas we commend the Del Norte County Department of Health and Human Services, Behavioral Health Branch, and all the community partner organizations, whether private, faith-based, or governmental, for their outstanding work in raising awareness about recovery and providing recovery resources for those in our community that are suffering with the disease of addiction. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Del Norte that September 2022 is hereby proclaimed as Recovery Awareness Month throughout Del Norte County, and calls upon its citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to commit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of recovery and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with substance use disorders. Passed and adopted this 13th day of September 2022.
Thank you. Is there someone here to receive that? Oh, C.
Thank you so much, Board, for your support. That really means a lot to us as an agency and really emphasizes your sincere attention to the challenges that we face here as a community. I do have my team here from our Behavioral Health Branch who works directly with recovery services and provides the support to our clients. So they have a few things to say.
Right on.
Chairman Hemmingson, members of the Board of Supervisors, I'm John Horner. I'm a recovering drug addict. Cheyenne is sorry she is unable to make it today to accept the proclamation. Ironically, she is currently at a conference for medication-assisted treatment for jails and justice systems. These conferences support the recovery work at Behavioral Health we do. She asked me to highlight some of the things that we're doing right now in our programs. In an upcoming board meeting, we'll be seeking your approval on the MOU we are developing coordination with the Open Door and RX Safe Del Norte, which will allow additional recovery services provided by our staff to the jail. We are also excited to report that the substance use disorder service part of behavioral health is finally fully staffed. We are continuing to seek applicants on our mental health programming. Our SUD program serves those age 12 and older seeking recovery services. Those interested are welcome to come to our office Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 to schedule screening, as there always hope for recovery. As you know, addiction has no boundaries, and I'm sure each and every one of us sitting in this room today personally have been affected by addiction in some capacity. I want to highlight the team we have at Behavioral Health, as each one of their own amazing recovery stories. Between this team, we hold 35 years of combined recovery. As for me, it was 7.5 years ago when I was fired from my job as a coordinator of Del Norte County Recreation. I had been arrested for drug possession charges. Since then, in 2015, I have graduated from College of the Redwoods with an associate's degree in social and behavioral science, along with certification of addiction studies. Today, I'm a registered substance use disorder counselor and recovery specialist with the Del Norte County Behavioral Health Department. I work with those, like me, with substance use problems. Addictions are found in people of all ages, all genders, and all races. I try to help those in need help the path and can find joy like I do today. I would like to give this board and the Del Norte County a heartfelt thanks for giving me a second chance to be a better person to myself, my family, and my community. Thank you for believing in addiction recovery and for standing up against the stigma often comes with it. And thanks for everyone who has helped me be clean and sober for the past 2,700 days. Thank you.
Congratulations, John. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Hello again. I was just here last month. My name is Michelle Cusimano, and I work as a Recovery Specialist 1 for the Behavioral Health Branch here in Del Norte County. My desire to work in this position has come from the countless people that have helped me in my own recovery journey. I struggled horribly with the disease of addiction, but today I have 5 years, 5 months, and 13 days clean and sober. I would have never been able to achieve that if not for the kind and compassionate individuals that saw hope and potential in me, and I will never forget those people. It is with great honor that I now strive to give back what has been so freely given to me. Recovery is possible, and I'm living proof.
Congratulations. Thanks.
My name is Catherine Alaboff, and I'm a grateful recovering addict. I am a graduate of AOD and drug court programs, and this program not only changed my life, it changed the lives of my children and the lives of the people around me. It gave me the opportunity to get my life together, to move forward, and to succeed. I am a survivor, and I am proof that anyone can beat addiction. Now employed by the county, I am able to give back. I am able to set an example and to provide support to those that are still struggling.
Congratulations. Thanks.
Hey, hello you guys. I first want to say that I am honored to be a part of this amazing team. They are absolutely great. My name is Ashley Carey, and I'm a grateful recovering addict. I want to take a minute to explain to you all why recovery is absolutely everything to me. At 4 years old, I knew my parents were addicts. At 8 years old, I was drinking alcohol with my mother. At the age of 12, I started using drugs with my father, and by 13, I was a full-blown addict. I endured and caused a lot of trauma over the years to the ones I love. Addiction took everything from me, and even in recovery, it continues to take and take. My father is currently dying from the disease, and there is nothing I can do besides love him through it. This disease is cunning, baffling, and powerful. The stigma people have on addiction was one of the reasons it took me so long to get help. I successfully completed treatment at behavioral health years ago, and on October 17th, I will be celebrating 10 years clean and sober. In the last 10 years, I have finally become who I am truly meant to be. I am an active member of the recovery community. I sponsor women in our community and have even taken 12-step meetings into Pelican Bay. I am now a certified alcohol and drug counselor and work at behavioral health as a recovery specialist. I have a unique ability to connect with all walks of life and am truly able to reach the clients we serve. After all, I know what it's like to be on both sides of the table. I have been working closely and collaborating with the Yurok tribe in the Joint Jurisdiction Court and offer any help the county can give. I provide SUD services at the local county jail and provide services specific to pregnant women and mothers. At behavioral health, we offer many services such as traditional substance use disorder groups, youth services, and aftercare services. We also provide specialized groups, including a women's group that focuses on trauma and a co-occurring group that focuses on mental health and addiction. We are part of the drug court program, which helps hold our clients accountable. The awesome thing about drug court is, upon completion, clients are able to possibly have their felonies dropped down to misdemeanors and are able to petition to get off probation early due to their progress. We work closely with adult and youth probation, child welfare services, and partner with various residential facilities in the state of California. At behavioral health, we respect our clients' schedules and try to be flexible by offering morning and evening groups so that our clients can go to work, go to school, and comply with other various obligations they may have. AOD services are easily accessible to our community. Our address is 455 K Street, and our business hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. My goal in life is to help as many people as I can in our community get their life back with the time I have left on this earth. Since the stigma surrounding addiction is so huge, I will end with this. Addicts are not bad people trying to get better. They are sick people trying to get well. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
John, we have the proclamation.
We're running. You are.
Okay, we're going to move on to our general government items. Item number 21. 1, introduce an ordinance amending section 10.10.50 of the Del Norte County Code for updating parking restrictions, and 2, designate county council to prepare a summary for publication as requested by county council.
Move to approve.
I have a motion.
I'll second it.
I have a second. Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, then we'll bring it back to the board. Questions, comments? Kylie, please poll the vote.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Maston?
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Item number 22 is 1, introduce an ordinance regulating noise on residential property. In on. That's what it says. And 2, designate county council to prepare a summary for publication as requested by county council.
Move to approve this also.
All right, I have a motion.
I will second this also.
And I have a second. Any public comment? Seeing no public comment,
I have
then
a
we'll...
question for county council.
Okay.
Joel?
Any questions?
Yep, absolutely. We actually had an incident this year, and it happens irregularly depending on migration cycles of birds. But as it relates to agriculture and hazing of wildlife, can you address that in the ordinance, how it applies with the right to farm ordinance versus the right to protect your crop?
Well, the right to farm ordinance basically says it's not a nuisance to do farm activities. This has a carve out, let me find the exact language, for certain agricultural mechanical devices, apparatus, and equipment utilized for protection or salvage of agricultural crops during periods of potential actual frost damage or other adverse weather conditions, and then mobile noises associated with agricultural operations within certain times. So I don't know if the situation you're talking about would specifically fit in these, but this is not a nuisance ordinance necessarily. So this would not, the right to farm ordinance wouldn't really affect this. The right to farm ordinance is more about nuisance. This makes it actually a separate offense of misdemeanor, which could be enforced as a nuisance, but this is gives it a separate enforcement ability.
I guess what I'm trying to ask is, would this affect a farmer that has been practicing hazing for a period of 35 years, residential development comes around his properties, he still has the right to farm that property for those agricultural crops, hazes periodically depending on the season and migration and timing of species. I just want to make sure that this ordinance isn't impacting that particular farmer and his
This ordinance could, absolutely.
So I need the board to really consider what we're putting into this at this point in time, because as we grow as a community, as housing begins to restrict around agricultural developments and certain hazing type activities involve loud noises, I want the board to consider this kind of thing, because it became a massive issue, at least in District 3, and has in various years, depending on the migration cycle of van-tailed pigeon, whether or not this farmer was able to do his job and harvest his crop. So just wanted to bring that up, because it is something that we should discuss further instead of just taking quick, decisive action, but not everything was considered.
So this also, what I missed, there's a third one for agricultural pest control and pesticide application, but it's for mobile noises, like a truck spraying pesticides. So it wouldn't be terribly difficult to add another exception, but I don't understand really what kind of the need of the process or what kind of language, but we can work on that.
Yeah, I work on it now in front of this board and add the language as an amendment now and pass the ordinance, or revisit
Well,
this?
this is just introducing it, right?
Yep.
We can-
Yeah, and we can make small changes
Right.
in between.
Isn't there a time, I'm sorry, wasn't there a time of, and I can't,
Yeah, there's cumulative periods of time for certain decibel levels, but I think what Supervisor Howard is referring to is 20 decibels higher than 55 for any period of time would be the restriction, and obviously hazing of the wildlife would fall into that category. And I apologize, I was looking at this from a community development needing of a noise ordinance point of view.
I was looking
and-
at it from a residential
I was too.
point.
So I
Yeah,
apologize.
so,
Well, there's no need
if,
to
if we can change that here, I would be amicable.
I'd like to just bring it back maybe the next meeting and do some more research.
So-
Because, so this is, the noise will be measured on residential property. And so maybe a little bit more thought put into what the decibel level should be or what it could be or how those two should interact. It's just something that maybe just a little more time and we can get with Heidi and
So,
figure
Mr.
something
Chairman, I'll
out.
withdraw my motion to
I
approve.
guess I'll
Well,
withdraw my
we'll
second.
just table this
Table it.
to the next meeting, and go from there.
Thank you,
Board.
Supervisor Howard, for that insight.
Thank you. Any public comment on that item that we
You
just
opened it
tabled?
already.
Huh?
You had already opened it and closed it.
I just wonder, since Mr. Howard works for a farm, how he can suggest input and persuade a board to do something. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
I have a hand raised online, Chair.
Okay.
Robert, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Hi, Robert again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I actually was just curious of the same comment as Linda Sutter, sorry. That it seemed like very specific to if the industry, maybe a representative's in, if it's not a conflict of interest. You know, of course, I'm not a lawyer. Thank you.
Joel is, and he could probably answer that question.
Well, I haven't really thought about it. Speaking generally about agricultural practices, I don't think is a conflict of interest. It could be, depending on if it's a specific practice that your employer,
Yeah,
that's just
and-
not something that I,
And it's not a specific practice of my employer. It's not a loud noise issue. I was talking about specifically an agricultural crop that's harvested and predated upon by birds. I appreciate the public comment, but in this case, it doesn't apply to this type of business.
Like a blueberry farm?
I would just like to say that, we all are elected at different parts of this county, and I appreciate the perspective from the agricultural community, because I don't have it. So I appreciate that very much.
Any other public comment? Okay, that item is tabled. We'll come back at the next meeting. Item number 23 is to approve and adopt an ordinance establishing a tobacco retail license, and to direct county council to prepare a summary for publication as requested by county council.
I'm gonna motion to approve this.
Okay, have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, then we're going to
Nope.
bring it back
We
to...
got-
Oh. Well, come on.
Hi, Mr. Short, tell your son hi.
I will.
I know he's really old by now, but I want you to imagine him.
No, he's not really old.
How old is he?
I'm not
Yeah.
that old.
Right, well, he was a joy to have, by the way, in kindergarten, first grade.
Thank you.
But I want you to imagine
Long time
him
ago.
going into a store where there's a poster of a kid on a skateboard, and next to it, looking cool, and next to it is a list of all the flavored tobaccos they have. So put that up. Anyway, my name is Lisa Weaver Kramer, and I have taught preschool through adult ed in Del Norte County from 1987 to 2018. I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for addressing our local epidemic of youth vaping and the terrible consequences of becoming addicted to nicotine. The policy before you today is an important step forward in helping our community address the problem upstream. Punishing the victims, the children who get hooked on tobacco, will not work. As a teacher of 46 years, I know that kids learn through positive reinforcement, and dealing with problems by punishing does not work. This policy will build support for a healthy community and prevent addiction before it starts. A community approach shows that together we care about preventing tobacco-related illness and supporting people. By working together on this issue, we are creating a positive, uplifting, healthy, and vibrant community, which is something of which we all can be proud. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions of me?
Nope.
Okay.
Any other public comments? Anything? Okay, we'll bring it back to the board. Kylie, please poll the vote.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Supervisor Maston?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Okay, item number 24, approve and authorize Supervisor Maston to continue meeting with county departments and other stakeholders on the District 5 homeless encampment issue previously initiated by Supervisor Starkey as requested by Supervisor Maston.
Yes, and I just wanted to continue this informal process as it was conducted by Supervisor Starkey.
Okay.
Yeah, it was never anything really formal. I just got a call from Chuck Williams about the encampments behind his sheds there on Elk Valley. We didn't have a District 5 supervisor at the time, so I kind of took it on, and I just met informally with department heads. So there was really nothing ever super formal. It was just about gathering ideas and focusing on a small area and perhaps coming up with solutions for the bigger areas later on. So I'm more than happy to hand that off now that we have a supervisor representing the area.
Okay.
So I'd move to approve.
Okay. Any second?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any public comment on this item?
Permission to do this for the board?
Seeing no public comment, then we'll bring it back to the board. Questions, comments? Kylie, please pull the vote.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Maston?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Item number 25, discuss and give possible direction to staff regarding regulations of vacation rentals as requested by Supervisor Maston.
Chair, I'm going to recuse myself from this item as I own 2 vacation rentals.
Okay.
So I actually have this on here because during our last meeting there was discussion about noise, and so 22 may address some of that, but was noise at vacation rentals, and because there were concerns of residents living next to vacation rentals that people who rented them were on vacation and they were having a good time, and so they were concerned about the noise. But since it's on here, I thought it would be a good opportunity for us also to take a look at what other counties are doing in regards to looking at possible caps on vacation rentals, and for us just to begin to take a look at what those look like, because we're starting to reach a threshold, and I just think that we should be prepared and start looking at what other counties are doing. So to gather that information for whatever's out there so that we can take a look at that and then look at what's currently happening in our county, and that's all that I really wanted us to do here.
Okay, I'll open it up for public comment. Please come forward.
Hi, thank you. My name's Rick Shirley. I'm a resident of Del Norte County. I'm also former Director of Economic Development for the state of Utah, where I won the Governor's Award for Excellence in Economic Development. I own several properties in the city and county, all of which are currently out for rental long-term. We don't do any vacation rentals. We believe in supporting the residents of the area. I do have a short rebuttal on the comments of a caller earlier this morning. It's not true there are 0 properties for rent in the area. I currently have 2 listed right now. But I can tell you that the demand for rental properties has skyrocketed. At the same time, the demand for Airbnb type properties has skyrocketed. So I understand his comments that I don't see any rentals available, and I see a lot of Airbnbs for rent. Those two are not causes of each other. Those two are the result of the same economic circumstances. The same market forces influence both factors. The rest of the state's on fire, and paradoxically, in drought and flash floods at the same time. The crime in the cities is completely out of control. Rent prices are skyrocketing. People are fed up, and people are looking for alternatives. And guess what? They found Del Norte County. It's no longer a secret. So it's easy to blame these problems of housing shortage on rental properties and short-term rentals, but those are really not the key factors. I mean, we are struggling with housing for nurses and teachers and correctional officers and other key contributors to our community. And that's really a problem. And it's easy to blame those on those problems on short-term vacation rentals. But vacation rentals fill an important niche in the economic spectrum of housing. They bring in visitors who are higher spenders to the community. They provide significant tax revenue, tourism opportunities, and they provide positive exposure of Del Norte County to the wider world. But at the same time, like any human activity, I think short-term rentals are subject to a lot of abuse. They can circumvent zoning regulations by turning other neighborhoods into de facto hotel zones. They can create noise and other kinds of problems for residents and interfere with the quiet enjoyment of their properties by creating these party houses. So I do believe the residents of this county may benefit from some regulations related to vacation rentals with the goal of protecting the rights of the residents and the quality of life in this county. But I also want to make sure that we protect the important tourism resource and revenue opportunities that they provide. So thank you so much.
Thank you. If I could impose on your expertise, how do we fix our housing problem?
Yeah, well, that doesn't fit into 3 minutes, but I would love to talk to you about it.
Okay, thank you.
You so much.
Thank you so much. Any other public comment?
My name is Sandy Moreno. I'm a property manager for Ming Tree Property Management. I wanted to share my experiences of the last 2 years and some disturbing stuff that I just saw this last week. I would say that I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I would say that over the last 2 years, I know COVID was in there, but I don't know if it's related to COVID. I lost 50% of my properties that I managed as long-term rentals. Half of those, they decided to go to vacation rental, mainly because they were retired people or close to retirement and they're getting ready to come up here and take their properties, so they asked me to go vacation rental with it. The other 50% sold their properties because it was such a great market. As a property manager, I'm having a heck of a time finding people who want to rent their homes because I do have so many people that call me every day. So I'm not able to do anything with that. So that's my thoughts on the housing rental. We definitely need to do something about it. I'm more here because of what I saw that Curry County did regarding vacation rentals and the plan that they just passed. I think it does away with vacation rentals. The parking, has anybody seen that? Yeah. Okay, so I read it last week, and what's still with me today and why I ran down here is I saw 2 things in that. One of them is the parking. You have to have a parking space other than your driveway for every bedroom you have. I don't know of very many people who have vacation rentals that could do that. So that parking basically does away with vacation rentals. And then the fact that you're going to charge them, not you, Curry County, is going to charge $2,000 to start up just to have a vacation rental, and then $500 to be inspected every 2 years, which kind of makes you like a HUD property, and you got to go through all of that and all the costs involved with that. Outrageous. I have to tell you, some of my vacation rental people, they don't make that much money. You know, it's just a little bit to offset some expenses that they have, maybe pay their property taxes for the year and some other things. So I just wanted to volunteer to say, if you guys are going to do something on vacation rental, I'd certainly like to be part of the input process on how that finally comes out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Other public comment?
My name is LaVon Powell, and I'm a lifelong resident of Del Norte County, also an owner of vacation rental. In fact, the one that caused all the brouhaha, which I feel very badly about. We really like our neighbor. And when we bought the property 7 years ago, it was actually a vacation rental at the time. I will say the occupancy has gone up since we purchased it. And we're very sorry that it bothers our neighbor. We like him. We do have plans to build a fence, although we have had plans to build a fence for a while, but we will make sure we get that done. We'll build a 6-foot fence between our property and his, and hopefully that will make his life easier because we do care about him. We have asked him to call us if there was a problem, but he doesn't do that. So, It was also stated that we're getting wealthy at his expense. And although we did recently buy an expensive property, buying a property is much different than having it paid for. And we need the income from both vacation rental properties that we have in order to pay the mortgages. We bought it with that intent of making a vacation rental. If we were not allowed to do that, we would not be able to keep the properties. It would be financially disastrous for us. Through our choice, we've been mostly self-employed. I was able to stay home as a homemaker, so we don't have a pension. We don't have a big retirement. Some of that was our choice, the lifestyle that we chose. But this is our retirement. And so we're not doing it as a whim. We're not doing it to get wealthy. This is important to us financially. We are big fans of tourism. We love to see people come here and enjoy our community. It's a beautiful place. And we love that our properties are in beautiful places because hundreds of people get to enjoy it as opposed to one or two. We love to share the beauty of our community. We tell people where to go. We spend a lot of money in local businesses to outfit our places and employed different people to help bring them up to snuff. Anyway, and there was a question last time about the septic too. A couple years ago, we put a lot of money into upgrading our system. So I don't believe it goes into the river. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? No, Cindy, go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Cindy Vosberg with the Crescent City Del Norte Chamber of Commerce. First, let me thank you all for the great job that you're doing for us. That's very sincere. Thank you. What I have to say, I'm sure you already know, but I'm going to say it anyway. Short-term rentals are vital sources of income for many businesses and help build tourism, providing a place for visitors to stay and enjoy our region. It generates TOT dollars that help our county and city operate. Right now, we are a government-based economy with much of our employers being the state prison, city, county, state, and national parks, and our schools. If we want to continue to grow our secondary economic basis tourism, we need to cultivate ways to do this, which includes providing vacation housing and giving the visitors wonderful experiences while they are here. We also acknowledge long-term housing is at a critical shortage, and we hear the horror stories from our local employers that they cannot recruit employees from outside the region because of the housing shortage. This is not a new issue. I dealt with it over 10 years ago as the publisher of the local newspaper in both Del Norte and Curry County. The housing shortage is a multifaceted problem, and it is not clear-cut that should we limit the number of short-term rentals, this would result in more long-term rentals. We know there is limited land on which to build, and once permits are pulled, there is a long lag time before building is completed, as we need qualified tradespeople to do the work, and we have a shortage of that as well. The Crescent City Del Norte Chamber of Commerce would like to see, before any recommendations or decisions are made that affect our community, a comprehensive study done which includes seeing what other communities are doing, what is working, and what isn't. We'd want to see a plan that benefits both residents and business owners. We would like to see our county and city staff work together along with their consultants and engage our community citizens and businesses for their input. And then, and only then, a recommendation be made that finds a middle ground. We realize this issue is large. As the Chamber, we do not support limiting our local businesses from succeeding. We do support thoughtful and meaningful growth that leads to a healthy community, which supports both commerce and quality of life. The research needs to be done prior to any recommendations. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Cindy. Any other public comment?
My name is Amber Weir, Project Director for NorCal for Health. I just wanted to piggyback on this idea of planning, and I believe you guys have a housing element that you are working on right now, and the city is also working on. And when you go through the housing element process, they can recommend policies such as this and have I know that there are communities that have hybrid policies, that for every 2 VRBOs you have, you also then have to have 1 long-term rental or something to that nature. So maybe using your housing element process, public input process might be helpful in this situation. And NorCal for Health actually within our work plan is able to help with public, help organize, receive public input, try to assist where we can with housing elements because we're interested in housing retention and third-hand smoke not damaging those long-term rentals. So, thank you.
Thanks, Amber.
Well, good morning, supervisors. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Gerhard Weber. I live here in the county. I serve the county in some other capacity at the harbor. I'm also owning a VROB, kind of Airbnb-like thing. This is actually my wife's business. We are both retired, and this is how we supplement our retirement. This is not somebody who is super rich. We are barely making it. I think the market will take care of the situation. As you have just heard, we are contributing to the tax base of Del Norte County, and if the occupancy rate drops, what are we going to do with our vacation rental? Most likely, we will then make it available to long-term renting or short-term renting for nurses and so on. The market will have its voice. This is not the time to stop prohibiting vacation rentals. The times will get better. More and more people will find out about Del Norte County and come to our beautiful place, see our beaches, see our redwoods. And, you know, having a vacation rental is the most natural thing that somebody can do. You open up your home to somebody you don't know, of course, for payment, but it is something super nice that our community can do for our visitors. So let's not be close to that. And yes, I'm okay. Research is always good. Get as much information as possible, and then listen to the market. The more you guys get involved in this, the more control government asserts over private property, the more problems you might create. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I got some notes here. My name is Adam Rose. First of all, thank you guys for allowing us to comment on this. My wife and I moved here in 2017. I'm originally from the Bay Area, and we moved here with the understanding that our opportunity for employment here would be limited based on the industry that I work in. My father and I owned a business. It was a transportation company. It was a very small company, but I was lucky enough to be able to find the Smith River in Del Norte County. My wife grew up here. And we moved up here with the understanding that you know, there was an opportunity for us to earn additional income through Airbnb if we were able to make that happen. So we took some savings. We purchased a small trailer. We put that in the front of our property, and we rented that out. I think it was $89 a night. It wasn't a huge money maker, but every dollar counted. My wife was staying at home raising my daughter. Since then, we saw the opportunity that was there, something that my wife could do from home. She could supplement my income. And at this point now, we own 2 rentals. And first of all, I just want to say that I reject the notion that only people of means can own Airbnbs, and that everybody who does own one just gets rich off of that process, because it's not true. I had a story much like you do. Where, you know, we own these properties, but they're serving to pay the property taxes, they're serving to pay expenses, and this is an investment we made for our future, for our daughter and our family. To address the idea that these vacation rentals somehow create a situation where neighbors are put out by noise issues, or that perhaps there's some people who come there that you're not comfortable with or you're not familiar with, there is a pretty robust rating system in Airbnb, and there's a lot you can do as far as you know, what you state is allowable on your property. And of course, some people will break those rules. There's not much we can do about that. But I think instead of having the county come in and try to regulate who can do what with their property, I think trusting the market force is one thing too, but then, you know, taking an approach with your neighbors in your community where you actually, you know, you talk to your neighbors, you find out certain things that if their property is an issue for them, what can you do to address that? Is there anything that you guys can do together? For instance, we have a property next door that is a short-term rental, and we have dogs that come over onto our property and they harass our chickens. It happened just this morning. Our dogs get riled up and they start barking. It woke my daughter up. That was an inconvenience to me. But the one thing that I'm not going to do is go to the county and say, hey, what can you do about this? That's my problem to work out with my neighbor. And I think if we all took that approach and we understood that, you know, these are not just people getting rich off of properties here. These are people with families that are providing a living through this process, and they're investing in the community.
Thank you.
Sorry, am I?
You're out of time.
Am I out of time? Okay, anyway.
Thanks.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. My name is Thomas Wortman, and I am a real estate agent with eXp Realty, Alder Point Group. I wanted to piggyback there on what Adam was saying, that Airbnbs, they are actually small businesses, and if you run one, you have to run it like a small business. Therefore, what you're doing is you're bringing entrepreneurship into the community. You're bringing economic dynamism into the community that I think is very necessary in a small community like the ones we have. Now, there are three issues really when you're talking about Airbnbs that people bring up. Number one, housing shortage. The housing shortage obviously is a systemic issue within California and larger parts of the United States. Airbnbs account for 1% of all housing in California. So I think the housing shortage argument is not really a great one. Next, that Airbnbs are bad neighbors. Well, what we have, though, is if my neighbor turned their home into an Airbnb, I'd be bummed out. But you know why? Because I like my neighbor. If they just simply put it on a long-term rental or even a month-to-month rental, I have no say in who my neighbor is or what they do. If all of a sudden my new neighbor mows the lawn every day at 7 o'clock in the morning and runs a chainsaw all weekend long, and then their teenage son is in a heavy metal band, I'm going to have some issues with my neighbor. And what am I going to do? Again, like Adam said, I'm not going to come to you guys with it. I'm going to talk to my neighbor and resolve that issue. Thirdly is the zoning issue. Homes, or residential homes, are zoned because it's a home. People come in there and they spend the night and they eat food and they live there with their family. It's the exact same thing that's happening with Airbnbs. And I don't see any difference in whether or not someone is renting it out to someone for 30 days or 12 months or 2 years as opposed to renting it out for 2 to 3 days at a time. It's still, the home is still being used for the exact same purpose that it was zoned for. So what I want to say then also is that if you have tourism in this county is very important to everyone. We want to bring tourism, more people into the county to spend money so we can have jobs, so we can have restaurants, so we can have things in this community to do. If we want to lessen the number of people coming into Del Norte County, if we want fewer tourism in Del Norte County in the summer of 2023, then we should regulate Airbnbs. And if you want more people, then stay away. Like my friend over here said, let the market decide. Let this thing take its time, take its course. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's up, guys? My name is Kevin Hawkins. I'm a real estate broker here in Crescent City. And just to be clear, I do not have a horse in this race besides the fact that I get to see this stuff in regards to housing day in and day out. I don't own a vacation rental. I don't have any plans to own one in the near future. But I've got one simple question. Who here has been on vacation before? And would you categorize that trip as cheap or expensive? Typically, the answer is, I go on one vacation a year because that's all I can afford. It's expensive. 50% of people going on vacation are looking for waterfront areas. They're looking for the ocean. we have it here. We have something special. We have a community that has something so special that we are doubling our numbers in just 5 years of the amount of people that are coming and staying here. That's unbelievable. Intentionally stifling financial growth is maybe one of the most idiotic things I can think about doing, and all in the sake of somebody being afraid to speak to their neighbor and solve a problem. There are no questions that there are problems that come along with people with Airbnbs, vacation rentals, short-term rentals. The question that we have to ask ourselves is, who's going to solve those problems and what are we doing about it? I think the answer we've heard over and over again here, and it's a good answer, is you need to have communication in your community. You don't need regulation from your community. So moving forward, how we handle this, we need to understand that this is something that Crescent City can take advantage of moving forward. The only thing that this body should be doing is encouraging growth in this market, not stifling it. Encouraging homeowners to continue to push for more vacation rentals will be a healthier dynamic here in Crescent City. I've been in the real estate game now for 12 years. I can tell you from day one in real estate, before Airbnb was a big deal, home rentals have always been tight. There has never been availability here, at least in the time that I've been in real estate. That's not going to change. We talk about what housing looks like in regards to growth in building. That's a separate conversation completely. If you guys want to talk about how to create more housing, we live in California, people. We live in California. It is a very difficult place for developers to build houses and do it in a costly and a timely manner. You want to talk about this? Get Sparky Rich in here. Get Marshall Jones in here. People that know this industry know it well in Del Norte County. These people know, and they're not excited about doing large developments because it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult to do this. It's not a short-term rental issue. It's not the lack of desire to build housing. This is an issue that comes back to it's expensive and it takes a lot of time and effort to build housing. We've got people doing it, but it takes time. I don't know if that's going to get any easier living in California. I hope it does, but those are the people that we need to be talking to, the developers, not neighbors, not people that are even in the short-term rental game. We need to be talking to builders. Thanks for your time.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Vince Tomasich. Hell, I'm the neighbor. I'm the neighbor. I know. I am the only one here, you know, who's the neighbor. And you know, life is full of choices. We all make choices in our lives. And I like my neighbors, the Powells. I like them very much, please. Don't get me wrong, Dave Levon. I don't dislike you. But I don't like the vacation rental. I mean, we had a gal, there were 4 gals rented that the other day, 2 days ago, and one of them was down at the Smith River. I was on a raft. I was just bathing away with my girlfriend, and she took off all of her clothes and jumped in the river. Yeah, it was fine for me. My girlfriend didn't care for it much, but anyway, you know, vacation rentals, people are on vacation. They're having fun. And you have to do something from a I don't know if you're going to do away with them. You know, there are commercial endeavors. Don't get me wrong. I think everyone in this group agrees with that. It's a commercial endeavor. You're going to make money off of this. Matt's going to make your mortgage payment. So you'll have a property eventually. The house in question that someone had mentioned it was downriver from me, and this was a place, it was a vacation rental for 2 years, and it was right across from Ruby Vandeventer County Park. They had a cesspool. There was no septic. It was an old cesspool, been there forever, old red cabin. Somebody bought it, fancied it up, put some paint on it, and made a vacation rental. Well, all that septic went right into the river. You know what a cesspool is. Yeah, you go on vacation, how long you take a shower? Huh? It's not your water, not your water heater. Hell no. So anyway, zoning is zoned residential. I think residential should stay residential. I'm sorry. But I shouldn't have to put up with people laughing, their kids screaming all day long. Every 3 days, I get somebody new. I don't know who they are. Most people are very, very good, and they are. But then there's that bunch. I know, I never called the sheriff one time except once. And these guys were jerks, Dave. They were jerks. They were jerks. And we called the cops on them. Hell with them. And then the cops came out. But I put up with a lot, and I think you guys need to look at some of this stuff. You need to look at, if you're going to continue with vacation rentals, then make some limitations on them. Do some inspections. What kind of a septic system, especially in the rural areas, folks?
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet.
Hi there, my name is Reed Powell, and we own 3 long-term rentals and 1 short-term rental. And I think what you're seeing right now in Crescent City is you're seeing kind of the saturation of the short-term rental market, and I think that it is kind of coming to this place where it's not necessarily a slam dunk to get a short-term rental, which is really where you want it to be. You want it to be like, okay, which one is more profitable? Hopefully they're both profitable, and that kind of brings the equity down and brings it to a balance. So I think that we're getting there. I don't think that it needs all that much tampering. I think it will sort itself out. The only other thing I was going to say, which there's a lot I could say, but it's all been said, and this hasn't been said, is how much beautification these short-term rentals bring to our city. You know, if you go down in kind of the beach area and you'll see a house that's not that nice, a house that's not that great, and then you see one that the landscaping is done and it has these really cool just decor and paint and everything looks perfect, you're like, that's probably a vacation rental, right? And as you go throughout our city, you start to see all these really, really beautiful and cool houses. Houses that, I mean, I know probably 5 people that have taken absolute eyesores, blight, and turned it into really beautiful parts of our city. And so there's this kind of flipping and beautifying our city that is driven by this hope that someday we'll make a profit on it. But in the meantime, the fact of saying, you know what, we might stop this from happening. Now those properties will not get fixed up, and if they do, they'll be just good enough for a long-term rental that you're probably not going to make that much money on. So all that to say, I think it improves our tourism. It cleans up the blight, and it helps people like myself that is by no means rich, but have some sort of income that can help me in my future. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to share. I'm Dave Powell, married to LaVon, father of Reed, neighbor of Vince. And I love all of those people. I apologize for my handshaking. I've recently been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Fortunately, I have a second opinion scheduled for March 30th. That's a help, in Ashland. The nice thing was that I was able to do my initial meeting, my initial appointment here in Crescent City with Dr. Benjamin, a fine neurologist that we have been able to attract to Crescent City, who travels down here for 1 week out of every month from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. The nice thing is, this last time that he was here, he was able to bring his wife because, oddly enough, they stayed in our vacation rental. And he was so pleased to have a place for his wife, and she just was ecstatic to have a place that my wife had skillfully decorated and was in a nice place, and that she could cook her own meals and she could travel around and see all the different things in the community that she wanted to while her husband was working. It's part of what makes it a doable, sustainable thing for them to have nice places to stay. I also want to say that I would not have a problem with some restrictions. We just bought a new house, LaVon was telling you, and it's in the city limits down by the beach, and we had to go through an extensive process. We had to do an application for a business license. We had to have an inspection by the fire department. We had to have an inspection by Danny Mingus, the city planning department, and before we could continue on. I think something like that would not be a bad thing for the county. I think it's really important. I also want to say that I think there may be different perspectives that are important too. A like I said, Vince is a great neighbor, and we really appreciate him. Our house out on the river is on almost 2 acres. Vince's house is on almost 1.4 acres. It is, there is enough space between my front door and his front door that a regular residential city lot would be placed. We're over 150 feet from his front door. The deck that he talked about a couple weeks ago is half a football field away from our deck. You can't even see it because of the brush and the shrubs. That's us. That's special for us. There are places in town that are next door to each other, and frankly, I appreciate that he called the police on those guys because they needed to have some attention drawn to them. Thanks for your this opportunity.
You bet. Thank you.
Good afternoon, I think. So we've heard all about B&Bs and how they generate a lot of income for our county and city. But the thing that you need to look at is there is the affordability issue of buying a home here is almost not reachable for a lot of people. I know the Department of Corrections is paying a stipend. I think it's $2,600 every so many months because people can't even afford to pay their rent, and they work for the Department of Corrections. That's a good job, okay? So, you know, I understand, you know, these folks rely on this income for their way of life, but, you know, other cities have had to put moratoriums on them because there's been no place for people to rent, and because even rent is not affordable anymore because of this. So you guys got a tough decision to make. There should be some restrictions on the amount of Airbnbs in our county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I don't have anything new to add, really, because it's been said by everybody else. But I would say that the housing shortage is not being affected by Airbnb or short-term vacation rentals. They're completely different markets. We did take a property that looked like it should have been condemned, and we completely gutted it, transformed it, specifically to have it be a short-term vacation rental. We invested in contractors, all of the trades, we employed them. We went out, we purchased all of the products that went inside of that vacation rental from this community. And I feel like we shouldn't be penalized for this. I don't feel that we need more government interaction or restrictions on this. As Gerhardt said, I think the market will fix the problem, if you will. If all of a sudden there's too much of a shortage of renters, then that person will probably opt to do something else, whether it's the traveling nurses or it's the COs. There are other markets, and that's just the property owner's choice.
Thanks.
Good afternoon. My name's Bobby Jo Bauer. I also have a vacation rental, but mine does happen to be in the city limits with my husband, Mark Bauer. We also took a condemned, blighted piece of property, turned it into a beautiful home. When I heard back a few months ago about Brookings, what they were doing with their vacation rentals, I took it upon myself. I asked for public records from Robin, how many vacation rentals we had, but I did only ask for in the city limits. She gave me a list of 24. I did my own survey. I called all 24 landlords, the owners of the properties. 2 told me that they would actually maybe possibly consider going back to long-term rentals. Those homes would not be put long-term rentals. They would be put back on the market. They would sell them. They would not. So those 24 vacation rentals in the city limits are not impacting long-term rentals. If you really want to know, California needs to go back to the National Building Code. With building in Del Norte County, solar systems, sprinkler systems, electrical you have to add for the new electric cars, it's making it impossible. We bought a commercial piece of property. We wanted to build an 8-plex. Penciled it out, not going to do it. We'll never see the return of the money in our lifetime. It's not going to happen. You got to change the building codes. Go back to the national building codes. Get some buildings going on in Del Norte County.
If I can just ask you one quick, do the city have any regulations on vacation rentals?
Well, we do have vacation rentals, so we did the
No.
same as
No, but I mean, is there...
regulations.
Do they have regulations? Do they separate? Is there-
No,
Okay.
no, they really don't. What our saving grace is for our vacation rental, because of the neighborhood, because we love our neighbors. They've been wonderful. Part of what we also have through VRBO, how do you say it? Well, there's like rules, house rules, and they're put on the website. How many we allow to stay, how many the house sleeps, no events, no parties, no smoking, and we have ways to control it. And we have cameras, we have surveillance cameras, we can see our deck, we can see how many people come and bring maybe a pet. We can say no pet policies. We evict them. You know, all this noise complaints, we just go down there and tell them, you're out of here. It's that simple. You have ways to enforce it. Maybe PALs don't have cameras, they can't see what's going on. We do. We evict them. We go down there, we send them an email, text, you've over our occupancy. VRBO backs us. It's eviction, no refunds. You're out. Go away.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Any other public comment?
Chair, I have some online.
Okay.
Robert, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Hi, this is Robert again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. You know, when I started with medical cannabis, I was already growing a little bit and sharing a little bit in my home, but I was concerned that if I, you know, turned it into a thing where people just were coming real regularly, that was really a commercial use. And so I did everything I could, and I found a commercial property for that. And still, you know, since the 20 years, almost 20 years we've been here, you know, I've noticed that there's 3 debates that are thrown on for the candidates, and, you know, the Republican Party, and one that's thrown on by a group of media or whatnot, and the other's thrown on by I think the Del Norte Realtor Association. You know, you never see so many people show up for things that they have an interest in, really, because, you know, that Friday meeting drop, and people are kind of humble, really, and don't believe they can affect their government, I believe. And so, you know, we see a big show for this, you know, but I remember as Patients Together, you know, I was operating there, the county was going to ban me. I didn't even get notification, but I do watch the agendas because I'm concerned for the way the county is managed. And so I've watched it for a long time. The first time I went in there, I noticed there just doesn't seem to be people that look like me, you know, that worked in the retail sector, that, you know, ran this industry, that was the average earning constituent. And it's, you know, still the case, you know. There's, you know, of course, we're a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and so, and the county does observe there are no net loss policy, that they observe that there's not enough land for the residents. And so I think it's kind of a conflict to then pretend that somehow this isn't a problem. In Sacramento, it's not a UNESCO World Heritage Site. You know, there's about 5,000 homes for sale on Realtor.com, and there's less than 1,000 on Airbnb. So it's not a problem in Sacramento. It's not a problem nationwide. It's a problem, and our community is probably one of the communities that's going to have the biggest problem with it in our community. Because in our community, we have 150 homes for sale, but we have, oh, Lucky, that's the next agenda item. No, wait, that's the next agenda item. No. In our county, though, we have, he's really pissed at Darren. In our county, though, we have hundreds of homes available in Airbnb. It's the majority of the homes available, if you add up homes available for sale in Airbnb and rent, is the majority of the homes. So here it is a problem. So we can't distort it otherwise. And you know, well, we should look for the public's input, you know, not an industry group's input as much. We should try to get the public there more than, it is impacting. When I moved up here, it was $500 a month to rent a little modest home, you know?
Thank you, Robert.
Well, thank you.
We're going to take about a 5-minute break. We'll be back here at 12:19, ready to go.
I hope I can get up.
More online. I apologize if I pronounce this wrong. Verdugo, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. My name is Angelica Verdugo. My husband and I, we do not currently own a vacation rental. However, we did recently purchase 2 properties. One of the properties already had tenants on it. There's more than 1 unit on this property, and this specific property has had a problem for years, the neighbors with these tenants, for blight reasons, for people coming to the different houses, all hours of the night, different reasons. So now that we've acquired the property with the tenants that were long-term tenants, we still have been getting a lot of calls from all the different neighbors, and we've been working with Dominic and in the process of trying to resolve all of the issues. So I don't think that just having short-term rentals is the only reason why people might have problems with their neighbors, because clearly we've experienced having problems with the long-term rentals. Our second property, there's 2 units on it, and there was tenants in one of the units, and we asked them if they would like to stay, and they said they would, and so they're staying, and they're great tenants. The second unit on this property, I discussed with my husband whether we wanted to make it a vacation rental or long-term. He said, well, let's provide more long-term rentals to the community. Let's make it a long-term rental. So we advertise it as a long-term rental, looking for a renter to go in there. I received probably about 40 emails and contacts from the community asking, that they wanted a place to stay, they needed somewhere to go, they asked for applications. So I sent everybody applications, and after about 2 weeks, I only received one back. And so, and it was not a good fit. So I reached back out to everybody that had asked for applications and said, hey, this is still available. If you're interested, we're looking for a renter. And most people responded and said, oh, yes, we are interested. I still did not receive any applications back. So at that point, my husband and I talked, and we need to pay the mortgage there. So we said, okay, well, maybe we need to make this a vacation rental. So that's the route we have decided to go, not because we didn't try, but just because we did not receive any applications back from the community that requested applications. The third thing was we recently also stayed at a hotel out of town. And I don't know if you can hear my 3-month-old, but I have a 3-month-old. And we look for places that are quiet, but in this area, there was no vacation rentals nearby, so we stayed at a hotel.
Thank you. Your time is up. Thank you.
Okay.
Is there any other public comment?
I don't have any more online, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Robin Hartwick. I do own a vacation rental, and I just wanted to, there were a couple of things that I didn't hear people say that I think are really important to consider in regard to vacation rentals. The first one is property rights. I think that we're in a time where rights are being taken away, and I don't like to see that. So I think maintaining property rights is really important. I'd like to point out that many people who own vacation rentals, especially people who only own one, they buy them as second homes, and when they come here to go fishing or vacationing or whatever they're doing, they're staying in the vacation rental at that time. They rent it when they're not there. They block out the days that they're going to be there, or their grandson or their uncle, and they use it as a family vacation rental, where part of the time it is rented to Joe Smith or whoever it is, and the rest of the time it's their family. And many of those, they buy them early with the intention of transitioning them into their retirement home. And it's an excellent plan to do that. It makes great financial sense for people to do that. But they wouldn't be able to buy and maintain that home until after they sold their home somewhere else and were ready to move here if the vacation rental wasn't something, that was there to supplement the income and their ability to own the 2 homes at one time. The other thing that I think is important to say is that a good neighbor is a good neighbor. It doesn't matter if you're there for 2 days or 10 days or 2 years. I think that anything that you consider imposing on a vacation rental should be considered broadly, not just for vacation rentals. So I would hope that anything that's imposed on vacation rentals would take that into consideration. So a good neighbor is a good neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, I'm going to close public comment then, and we'll bring it back to the board. Supervisor Maston, where do you want to go?
So this was only on here to begin for us to look for what's out there in other counties, because we haven't begun to do any research. So it's really just for us to start to do some research. And it was with in mind that it is a growing industry in Del Norte County, and you can see by the numbers that were provided to us today. So I think it's time for us to start researching, kind of what are other counties doing, and because it is a growing industry here. So I think to be responsible, we should see what, other counties are doing, and just have it for information that we are aware of. And I know that our housing elements are being looked at this time also. So I would like for staff to see what else is out there that we can, be aware of, and take a look at them when they come in. Not necessarily, that we may be acting at them when they come back, but at least we are beginning to take steps to familiarize ourselves with what's there, and to continue to keep an eye on the trend that's before us. I think it's wise for us to be on top of this as we move forward.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, my only, I think that it's important to get ahead of a crisis, right? So if it appears that it's going to be turning into a crisis, we need to get ahead of it. But I don't know that we're at the crisis level. If from what Barbara shared with us today, I think it was 192 total. And we don't have the figures in front of us, but my recollection is that we had about 6,000 stick homes in the county. Doesn't seem to be a crisis yet. Do we have a housing shortage with regard to rentals? Well, from what I hear on Facebook or from, different things, yeah, I've heard that, but I don't have the actual figures in front of me to know if that's accurate information. So while I can appreciate wanting to make sure it's on our radar, I don't know necessarily that we need to act right now, but I do believe that we should be looking at the trends and seeing what's happening and get ahead of it, so it doesn't come to us where it's a crisis and we shut it all down. I don't want to be Curry County. So I do appreciate this conversation today immensely. I appreciate all of you coming out and bringing this to our attention. But until, I have no real opinion on it until I see the numbers and the figures.
Yes, exactly.
Supervisor Short, got anything?
I just wanted to echo what was said here tonight in the fact that we've had a 50% growth in the last 2 or 5 years. What'd you say, Kevin? 2 years? I've only heard personally 2 complaints. One out on South Fork Road and Vince's complaint from our last meeting. I don't see that as an alarming situation that we need to have staff looking into regulating. So I'm not in favor of directing staff to do that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I run hot and cold on this thing. I'm conflicted between property rights, which I think, I think if you, you have a house and you stay within the rules, by golly, you ought to be able to do pretty much whatever you want with it. On the other hand, I look at it, is it a commercial enterprise? Unlike a long-term rental, which is not such a, not that it's not income generating, but it's I guess not viewed as much as a commercial entity. So anyway, yeah, I'm with Supervisor Starkey. I don't think we've hit the crisis stage yet. I do think that we may want to look into, you know, what we do if we do hit the crisis stage. But you know, if the regulations that VRBO puts out, or whoever else, Airbnb, if they have regulations, if they have certain regulations that you follow, it certainly wouldn't be a stretch for the county to make things even across the board to create some of those same type of regulations. So, like I say, I don't think it's a crisis stage. I think that you know, property rights get involved, and you know, I'm not much for infringing on those myself. So I think at this point, I don't think we have consensus to move forward with anything.
I'd like to just add one thing, is that one thing I've heard from today's discussion was the need for us to help streamline building new residences here. And so I really want, that's where I feel like we should be focusing our energy and our direction. So, stop. That's where I would ask for the staffing direction for us to kind of go. That's just my 2 cents.
We'll talk to Governor Newsom and see if
Well,
he'll give up his authority and give it back to the national building standards. Yeah, probably not going to happen. But yeah, we understand the pain, you know, in talking with people who want to create opportunity for rentals and can't afford to do it. I mean, you can't realize you can't have a return on your investment in your lifetime. That's a huge deal. And so, you know, once we get over that hurdle in California, there's no such thing as affordable housing in California. I don't know why they keep throwing that out there, but I don't think we're going to move forward on this thing. Although I think Heidi will probably keep an eye on things as things change, and see what other counties are doing that we may have to implement if we get a lot of complaints. But I'm kind of with Darren there. At least in this chamber, we have not heard a lot of complaints. I have not had an email or a phone call about this issue. So anyway, I think we'll just move on. Thank you all for coming. Thanks for all your input.
Yes, was much appreciated.
Okay, we're going to move on to item number 26, which is discuss and take possible action to revise resolution 2009-090 titled A Resolution Adopting California Penal Code Section 599D and California Food and Agriculture Code Section 17005 as requested by Vice Chair Short. Yeah.
We gotta go get the other guy.
Well, he should have been watching. He's probably asleep.
Oh, there it is.
Vice Chair, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, obviously by all the comments and emails and phone calls we got, I'd like to really clarify why this is on the agenda the way it is. At agenda review, I wanted to open up a discussion on this situation, but to make it possible for the board to take any action, you have to list it on the agenda that there is possible action going to be taken. It's not that I want it one way or the other. I just had to find a way to put it on the agenda so there could be a possibility of action taking place. I know I've turned into the worst guy in Del Norte County over the last few days because I listed it on the agenda that way, but if you're to put something on the agenda just as a discussion item, then there's no possibility to take action. So that is why it's listed on the agenda today. So, or listed on the agenda the way it is. But I just want to say I brought this item for a few different reasons. I mean, all of us felt that I believe all of us felt that we needed to discuss that public comment that was made by the Dogs of Del Norte volunteer last week. We got a bunch of pictures and stats from them that made a lot of good points. Also, I wanted to have a frank conversation about the population of animals that are kept at the facility. I heard just a few weeks ago that we're almost to like 40. Now I guess we're down to 27, which is great, but I still think that a conversation needs to be had. It doesn't mean that we're going to start dispatching animals left and right. And I felt that we also needed to discuss operations at animal control and see if we can do anything to ease the transition to our sheriff, or under the sheriff's umbrella, as that is coming. Obviously this is a touchy subject. There's a lot of emotions involved, but I was the one that was there during an agenda review, and I thought we needed to have this discussion. So it was me that placed it on the agenda. So it rests squarely on my shoulders. I'm sorry for the mess I stirred up for all my colleagues here at the dais, but
that's why we get the big bucks.
I guess that's why. So this conversation is not what people are believing it to be, in my opinion. So we all got the emails that said people were appalled and extremely distraught that we were considering going back to the dates before the resolution in 2009. Anyway, I just wanted to support our sheriff. I know that last time we asked him to comment, he said he hadn't had a chance to look at it too extensively at that time, but his comments were, I know if the board supports me, then we can make it happen. So there is limited resources to act on a lot of the problems that we have at the dog pound. The Dogs of Del Norte volunteers gave us some stats, and all of their volunteer hours I figured up, and they're just shy of 7 full-time equivalents employees for the volunteer service that they do.
Yeah.
So that's, you deserve applause for that one. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So here we are. This was coming off of hearing that we have 40 dogs out at the dog pound. Like I say, it's less now. Here recently, the Humane Society partnered with us and bought new kennels. I think we both pitched in money to buy new kennels, and the concrete there, pavers that go below them and stuff. And at that time, I asked, is this for an expansion of the numbers of dogs? And the answer to that question was no, absolutely not. This is an exercise area for the dogs that we have. But with 40 dogs at the pound, that turns out to not be true. So for us to transition to the sheriff, I just feel like we're kind of giving him a soup sandwich, and I just wanted to open up a conversation to see what the members of the board, members of the public had to say about this situation. I would really not like to hand off the sheriff a mess. I'd like to give him the latitude to handle it the way he sees and the way Brittany sees, because Brittany's going to be probably his lead, I guess. And I also wanted to point out that if it were to be decided that we, or considered that we do modify or take away the resolution from 2009, that means it would resort to or revert back to our municipal code. And currently our municipal code doesn't say anything about a minimum number of days or a maximum number of days that an animal stays at the shelter before it's euthanized. It doesn't say that. just would put the onus of decision-making a little more freely in the hands of our animal control officers and the sheriff.
So Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you, because this is kind of like the last one, because that wasn't really what I said about regulation. So I understand what you're saying about how your agenda item got put on here. But I'm glad that you have this on here, because I have real hesitation for transferring the animal services in the condition that it is in today. Because we're handing him over something that looks just like the jail that we handed over to him. And to me, that's not okay. And we're doing a assessment, yes, on the our county-owned buildings. And yes, we're going to address the maintenance of it. But I really want for us to address the maintenance issues before we hand this over to him, because it's not fair for him to have two facilities that mirror each other, and to me that's not acceptable, that for us to do that to him. And there are, having taken that tour, the kennel itself needs some serious rehab, and the livestock facility, the fencing, and the having the ability for the animals when it's raining to have an area that they can, go under and get out of the rain, has to be addressed. And I just feel that we need that to be done and have those numbers in that budget, so that he's assured that that's going to happen. And soon, the rainy season's going to be upon us, and that is not fair to the animals themselves for health and safety, to be in those situations. We're taking them out of a situation like that, and then we're putting them into a similar situation. Does not seem to be right. And right now we have volunteers who are repairing and doing that work, and sometimes spending their own money to make repairs and do the work. And to me, I am very thankful for those volunteers, that they care and so deeply about those animals, that they're giving their time and money to maintain that and provide for those animals out there. But we need to take that responsibility, and if we're going to change and turn it over to the sheriff and have that be his responsibility, I think that we need to ensure that those facilities are brought up to standard.
Okay, I think we're off topic, but what is on the agenda today is to discuss and take possible action to revise that resolution. It's kind of a state code that we follow, and I think that, there's, what we want to do, what we're mandated to do, and but I don't know that we have a lot of wiggle room here, to be honest. And this comes from a case called Hayden, and it was 1998, and then it evolves, and even in 2020, and I couldn't find, and this is where I would ask some staff input, because I couldn't find the resolution of it, but California as a whole has become a quote-unquote no-kill shelter. And I put it in quotes because there are times when we have to euthanize a dog. We have to. And I've been working out there the day that one of the dogs bit a girl's arm. And the next day, the dog had to be put down because they're dangerous. They're extremely dangerous dogs. And when that happens, we have to act. What we currently have allows for that decision-making to occur. And I'm not willing to change that. Am I going to say that I'm going to dig in my heels in and I'm never going to change it? No. But I'd like to give Sheriff Scott a chance to get in there and see what he wants to do. And I understand we are giving him a soup sandwich. And that is why I'm at the very beginning of this meeting, and I will offer it up again today if the board wants to allow me to be on a committee to help with that transition, I'd be more than happy to do that. And we work out some of these issues as a collective committee. So I don't know that, I understand Supervisor Short, you want to respond to something and fix something before we pass it off. I don't know that this is the one to fix, because I think we have some certain mandates that we have to follow.
In that regard, if I can respond. Sure. If I could ask you, Joel, penal code says it is the policy of California to yada, yada, yada. Is that permissive?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird statute, right? It doesn't say you shall not euthanize dogs. It
Right.
says it's the policy, and then the board adopted that same policy. You know, the penal code does then still, not the penal code, it's actually the food and ag code that allows you,
Right.
you hold for a minimum period of time, and then you can euthanize. I think kind of the problem is if we have this policy, this principle that we're not going to euthanize adoptable dogs, but then we can't really afford to maintain those dogs, we're not actually probably generally living up to the standard of care for dogs that we established in our county code, right? Proper food, proper shelter, I mean, they get food, but shelter, you know, being maintained in a humane fashion. So I don't know that it's the policy that's the issue. It's, you know, what are we doing to respond to the policy? I've heard Justin, and I don't see him, maybe he's on the phone still, but
yeah.
he once said that they just don't have the resources to go find homes to take them to other animal shelters, other places that could be a more long-term fit. It's just, they don't have the resources to do this well. And so I would say, at what point do you say that an animal that's being held in there is better off euthanized? I mean, that's a tough decision and not one that the code is dictating, is basically. It's not one the code is dictating.
Exactly. And that's basically what I was getting to with Brittany being our lead for the sheriff. Once it moves over, she does not have the opinion that we should euthanize a dog after whatever, you know, you pick the number of days or whatever. I know she's not of that opinion. So, you know, I just wanted to make that clear that that would not be, I don't believe that that would be the result of changing or repealing the resolution.
And so what were you looking for, Darren?
I was just wanting to get varied opinions from the board members to see what we could do to find the resources to fix the horse paddock, give them, you know, apparently the whole holding area needs to be dug up and replanted, because according to the Dogs of Del Norte.
Well, I guess my question is, what do we need to change in this resolution to be able to do that? Is that where you're going with this? Do we need to change something in this resolution in order to do what you're talking about doing? According to what Joel is saying, that there's really nothing in there that prevents us from moving forward?
I think the resolution is treated, and we often say we have a no-kill shelter, and so we could clarify the resolution that it's, you know, we should keep dogs alive to the extent that we have the resources, or something like, if animal control feels like they need some specific authorization to do something, we could fix it. But I would say right now they're not under a strict mandate to do anything based on the resolution.
Well, I think when it becomes detrimental to the animal, you know, when we can no longer take care of it, or if it's not adoptable, I mean, those types of things, it seems like that's the direction that we should go. That doesn't prevent us from doing that in this resolution that we've got.
No, we're not prevented from doing that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, is what is it that we need to change, or maybe the sheriff can weigh in if he thinks there's something that needs to be changed to help facilitate the direction that he wants to go, or that he thinks we need to go.
So, Mr. Chairman, to deal with the rest of what Supervisor Short was saying, he was envisioning a much larger discussion than this agenda item. Do we put that on the next agenda for discussion then?
Let's
the
finish
bigger
up
picture?
what we got going here.
Okay.
Sure.
I think and I don't know a ton about this yet. So researching ag code, which is a different perspective for me, civil code and ag code, there's a difference between vicious dogs, vicious animals, and stray animals. And there are certain periods of time that we have to hold on to these dogs. And then there's all kinds of different criteria that's a little bit confusing. Whether we have, if we're going to adopt them out, they have to be spayed and neutered, but there's only 7 days to do that, and so forth. So it gets pretty confusing. How do we spay and neuter a dog and have it adopted out in 7 days is beyond me. So there's a whole bunch there. And then, you know, if we're getting too many dogs and we can't afford to care for them, do we create a 501c with Dogs of Del Norte, and maybe we move those dogs under their umbrella at some point down the road? I'm just saying those are options. That's not something I want to just jump into. But, you know, there's a lot to it to look at and investigate. And I think as far as the ag codes go, I think we're pretty well covered, but we do have some issues to look at, certainly. So hopefully that answers some questions.
Okay, well, that probably created more questions than answers, but thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'd just like to support the comment the sheriff just made and reflect back again on what Supervisor Starkey had stated. It's how our staff potentially in the past have interpreted not only our resolution, but also California Ag Code policy. And as I went through this with Joel in April, after an incident in Smith River where a woman was physically mauled and attacked, animal control wasn't able to respond soon enough to take this animal into custody. The animal was moved out of the area, never to return, so the owner dealt with it in his own way. The problem is that if that animal came potentially to the shelter, it's potential that animal would be adopted out based on interpretation of policy. But in fact, based on what Sheriff Scott just brought up, severe injury, that is under our California Ag Code. There's 3 provisions for it under penal code. So we have a way to deal with it. And I really appreciate Supervisor Starkey and Sheriff Scott bringing that up. I think it's just how we as staff, how we as departments deal with it currently internally.
That situation, that dog has to do that twice before it can get labeled a vicious dog or a dangerous dog.
I don't believe that's the case.
It can be once if it's severe enough and to a human.
And mauling, yeah.
My mistake then, sorry. So I also wanted us to consider the cost of running the shelter since the passage of the resolution in 2009. I know you guys wanted, you know, or liking to see some statistics, so I put together actual costs, and I'm sorry, Jerry, I should have gave you 3 of those. On the left column is actual costs of running the shelter since the 2009 budget, and that's by every budget year. So since then, we've spent $80,262. So on the right side is starting with that 2009 figure, which was $1,940. Increasing it by CPI, of course, because we have to factor in, you know, inflation. And I can only assume that if the resolution was not put in place, then we would have similar costs that are in the right column, which total $25,620. So I guess what I'm saying is the consequence of passing the resolution in 2009 made a difference of an additional cost to the county of $54,642. And I'm wondering if the running of the dog pound the way that we're doing now takes away from the resources needed to run the rest of the ag department. You know, we have an increase in seizure of horses and goats, and you know, all of the, you know, on the agricultural side of the plate. During the winter, we have to find housing for them. We found from the you know, the presentation last meeting that we don't really have a place to put a horse, and the fairground is full. So I don't know how to address that. I just wanted to, you know, give that information to you guys as well, to, you know, give you something else to stew on as far as how things are running, and with the limited resources we have, you know, if that would drive any decision-making one way or the other. Like I say, I don't believe changing that resolution would change a lot, but it would just give the latitude to the sheriff and the people under him running the agricultural department. Just give them a little more latitude to run it as they see fit, as the business of the ag department would go, or animal control would go.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that changing the resolution would necessarily do that. And I think that there might be enough latitude within that resolution that's already there. And, you know.
And truly, I'm not sure either, Jerry. I'm really not. I just wanted to open up the conversation and see what your guys' opinion
and
was.
historically, we have not had the capabilities of taking care of large animals, cows, horses, goats. Maybe we could take care of a few chickens. I don't know, but we've never had that ability really, or had the facility to be able to do that. And if that's something that we need to do, I know that we've tried to stay away from that, sometimes at the detriment of the animal, by not taking it because we don't have a place for it. So I'm not sure what we do in those cases where people tend to be very cruel to their animals.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, at this point, I'm going to open it up for public comment. We'll get some public involved here and see what we can get going.
Good afternoon. My name is Brittany Pratt. I'm the Animal Services Supervisor for Del Norte County Animal Control. Today, I would just like to present you reasons why we are and advocate to remain a pro-life shelter. It helps to attract and retain more valuable volunteers. In today's world, people are feeling isolated more than ever, and the love and companionship many find in shelter animals can provide a deep feeling of connection. It is a devastating blow to fall in love with a shelter animal, to later find out that he or she is scheduled to be euthanized due to time restrictions, money, or space limitations. It helps to improve staff morale. Imagine working in a world where 50% of the population around you die every day. Killing healthy and treatable animals is debilitating and demoralizing for the people who have to do it and work with the animals on a daily basis. Chicago County euthanizes for space and time restrictions and continue to do so because it doesn't solve the problem. The real irony here is that the people who choose to work or volunteer at animal shelters do so because of their love for animals and their deep desire to help them. To then have to kill them is devastating. It creates a high-stress environment for employees and volunteers and contributes to a high turnover rate. It contributes to greater community support. Society is becoming far less tolerant of the mass killing of shelter animals due to them being viewed as highly valued and cherished members of the family. Many are in support of our current life-saving policies and procedures. We will lose the support of our sister shelters. Our sister shelters have graciously accepted 105 dogs into their program this year alone, all being transported by our volunteers. We have the support of our sister shelters simply because we are a pro-life shelter. They understand the need to place our long-term residents and assist us in fulfilling our life-saving missions. It aids in improving public image. This positive image helps generate donations, retain valuable volunteers, and gain community support. A good image is not just built on the accomplishment of good work, but on how well that accomplishment lines up with our charitable mission. By saving healthy and treatable animals, we are able to demonstrate to the community that we serve that we are achieving our mission and goals. In my 5 years of working at Del Norte County Animal Shelter, it isn't until recently that I have seen many of you out at the shelter, observing and looking into the various problems that currently exist. If I may, by show of hands, who has been out at the shelter in the past 3 months? I would just like to be sure that this proposal is based on firsthand knowledge of our operating procedures as well as the current conditions on grounds. Volunteers and staff have worked incredibly and hard to improve many of the conditions at the shelter, often on their own generosity. The Kennel Project, which has replaced many of our older, destroyed kennels, was completely funded on the generosity of volunteers, community support, and staff members. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. I appreciate that. Next.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Greg Bianchi. I've been here before, but it's been a while. Gentlemen, I did volunteer out there once upon a time. I kind of found some things disarrayed. I approached the individual who was in charge out there. Evidently, there's a handful of people out there that are actually part of the animal control or part of that function that are on a paid salary. The rest of them are all volunteers, and 90% of them, I would say, are female. I've had them instruct me on how to handle the dogs and how to handle and approach the cages and how to maintain them and so on. So it took me a day and a half to build one part of a kennel because of the materials scattered throughout the yard. You know, and you go out there, wow, I could fix that, but not with the tools I got in my kit. So it took me quite a while to maintain or build a portion of that chain link fence. I had to go out and acquire it from another piece that was hanging on the side of a building and take it apart and take it over there and mend that fence. Well, anyway, I approached the individual who was in charge and told him, walked into the garage and said, oh yeah, the tools are out there someplace. And I went out there and I go, wow, you know what, that paint locker looks like it needs to be corrected. You need an MSDS, material safety data sheet in there. You got paint and chemicals and other things, and you got vehicles parked in that barn. If that ignites, those cars in that first row are gone. And hopefully one of them's not yours. I said, I could remedy that for you. I have a plan for you. I used to do that for Home Depot and Lowe's. I was their person that took care of all that waste product, okay, and turned it into the recovery services. Anyway, he said, well, I'll consider it. And that was the end of the discussion. So I went on my way, and I looked around some more, took a dog out on a walk with another person, and found all the routes and everything out there. They had a little pasture-like place where they put goats and other animals like that. My thing is, I would like to assist the sheriff in coming up with some ideas. The other person said we have other people that have the same kind of problem where we can ship dogs or animals to, because if you have to maintain animals on our current status, they're going to be overwhelming with your funds. You will deplete your funds on food alone for some of those animals, and some of those animals are on special diets. That's how I found out. That special diets? 400 pounds of food cost them like almost $1,000. And I'm, holy smokes, who contributes that kind of money? And who contributes that kind of food to those specific animals and their needs? So talk about your financial stuff that you got over there. You didn't really break it down. You just kind of gave a big number about what was going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
And just to clarify that, that was the only line item that I could see that was in effect between 2009 and today. We do have other line items in the budget now, but that's why I came up with that number. So I apologize for not clarifying that.
Hello, my name is Lenora Wallace, and I am an animal lover. I'm here to talk for the Chihuahuas and the Pomeranians and the Boxers and the Bulldogs, the German Shepherds and the Labradors, the St. Bernards and the Great Danes, but I'm actually here most of all to talk about the pit bulls, because 50% of the dogs in our shelter are pit bulls. I know the problem with the dogs. I know the solution. The solution is to spay and neuter. The solution is to be a responsible pet owner, to keep your dogs in their own yard and to do things correctly to feed them and exercise them. Humans have failed these dogs already, you guys. Every dog out there has been absolutely failed by a human or 10. Who knows how many? How many times have they been in other homes before they got there? Why should a dog pay with its life for mistakes and stupid decisions of a human? It's not their fault. I feel like it's a heartless and barbaric notion that killing dogs would solve any problems, including money problems, which I hear a lot here today. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Next.
I am Kayla. The pound dog shouldn't have a time limit on their lives. They should live their lives out and should only be put down if they're suffering or really sick. This time limit thing to put them down isn't fair to them or fair to the volunteers that spend a lot of time with them. Camp Berry rescues puppies from the pound to give them a fresh start in life. I am not in support of this. If this happens, the pound will lose all the volunteers and workers. You guys did not think this out well enough. If you want to put people out of work, happiness, and jobs, I go to the pound to find myself, and it's my happy place. I love I love seeing all those dogs out there. Yeah, sure, some of them have issues, but a lot of people have issues as well. Why don't you fix the homeless issue instead of picking on the dogs and can't say anything or speak up? You people make me sick. In the view of most pounds, my dog Max, this is someone that adopted. My dog Max, you've been the perfect candidate for euthanasia. He had been taken off the streets, had a history of fatal violence toward other animals, remained unadoptable for 2 years, developed severe shelter anxiety, and was taking up precious space and resources, but thanks to Dogs of Del Norte and through patience, love, and compassion, Max now lives his days on a 30-acre farm with pigs, cats, dogs, and chickens, and travels the country with me, meeting new friends and seeing new sights. He is living his best life and deserves humans are the ones who domesticated dogs. We are responsible for them. Choosing euthanasia is the lazy, cruel way out of a problem. We as humans created dogs deserve better. Max did. Before I found Raylene's pound profile photo and fell in love with her goofy pipple grin, she had been at Dogs of Del Norte for exactly a year. I have had the pleasure of 8.5 years and counting with the sweet, silly dog. She has touched my life and lives with my closest friends and family. She has inspired other adopters and has been a source of joy, laughter since her arrival in my home. I am eternally grateful to the staff and volunteers who took such delight care of her for a whole year before we found each other. I took such delight care for her a whole year before we found each other. Took such delight care for her.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other public comment?
Good afternoon. My name is Eileen Bennett. I'm Humane Society of Del Norte's Vice President and Shelter Manager. I'm also coordinator of Prison Paws Partnership Inmate Dog Training Program at Pelican Bay State Prison. I'd love to see change, but not with the current resolution. Why set a time limit to euthanize dogs to save money or make more space when the dogs that die will only be killed to make space for the dogs that are going to fill those spaces by the end of the next business day? It makes zero sense. It will change nothing. It'll be a never-ending cycle of death because dogs keep coming. The dogs at the pound and the amount out there are not the problem. It stems way before that. What about the person who pays someone to care for their dog while they're on vacation? The dog gets out, ends up at the pound, and then dies before the owner returns from vacation. That's what time limits do. What about the dog who gets stolen from Texas, lands here, and dies before the owner can be found? And that's happened here in our county, not the dying part, but the dog stolen from Texas and ending up here. What about the dog who has been dealt nothing but neglect and abuse, who needs just a smidge longer to learn to trust and that people can be good? A perfect example of that is Margot. She's in our current training program. She couldn't be touched when she arrived at the dog pound. Absolutely could not be approached. She wanted to be loved. She wanted to trust. She just needed a little time. Right now she's thriving and blossoming in our program, but that process was started by your volunteers at your county dog pound. This resolution, the current resolution, is just fine. It's other things, like I said, that need to change. Instead of senselessly killing dogs, let's start by working on a plan to hit the problem where it will help. How about a countywide mandatory spay-neuter? To me, spay-neuter is huge. We at the Humane Society have helped countless people spay and neuter their animals, but it needs to be much broader than what we can deal with. It needs to be mandatory for those people who absolutely refuse or are not responsible. Let's follow that with holding dog owners accountable for roaming dogs, unlicensed dogs, unaltered dogs, oops litters, that we get really tired of hearing. It was just one litter, it was an accident. Let's spay and neuter so these animals don't end up at the pound. I've been in rescue for a long time now. I know that we can't save them all. I'm also not a bleeding heart who wants to. Sometimes euthanasia is necessary. I'm not against euthanasia of severely injured or ill dogs. I'm also not against euthanizing unpredictable, vicious dogs who have, after attempts have been made to help them, proven to be a danger to people or other animals. I'm against killing just to kill. And that's what I feel is being proposed here by suggesting any kind of change in the euthanasia resolution. How about forming a volunteer committee of 5 to 7 people from different walks of life and occupations to come together and discuss dogs on a case-by-case basis to decide whether euthanasia is necessary? Please consider what we've said here today and do not change this resolution. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Kylie, have you got anything?
I have 5 online.
Okay.
Rescue dog, or any dog for that matter, you need to know and understand the 3-3-3 rule. 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. The first 3 days, your new dog is overwhelmed, shut down, scared, and trying to figure out where they fit in. After 3 weeks, they are settling in, getting more comfortable, figuring out the environment, getting into a routine, and letting their guard down and showing some of their true personalities. After 3 months, they are finally completely comfortable, building trust, a true bond, and gaining a complete sense of security with their new families. Now apply these same rules to a dog brought into an unfamiliar, loud, and overwhelming shelter environment with a time limit on their head. That seems a bit unfair and harsh to me. Our small pound is off the beaten path and doesn't receive a lot of daily, weekly, or monthly foot traffic. This is where our amazing team of volunteers have stepped up, Not only do they go out and walk, socialize, and interact with the dogs on a daily basis, they are fundraising and hosting adoption events. They are networking with other rescues outside of our area to get dogs placed. When was the last time you've seen the county showcase or advertise any of our adoptable dogs? I have not seen one ad in 10 years. The Humane Society of Del Norte has created an amazing opportunity with the Prison Paws program. Did you know that they started with 4-pound dogs in round 1 and have now expanded to 8 dogs in round 3, with the expectations of increasing the amount of dogs again by round 5? Have any of you been out there to tour this facility, to see how it runs, to see how it works? Have you met the dogs prior to graduate, or prior to going out there and then seeing them again on graduation day? The transformation is huge. These dogs need our help. Their humans have failed. Their humans have failed them. They failed to keep them safe. They failed to give them love, basic care training, and they failed to care enough to even redeem them after being picked up as a stray. I believe that the accountability needs to start with the owners, and that the real solution would be promoting spay and neuter ordinance rather than a death sentence.
Thank you. Next.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Michaela, a former animal control officer in Del Norte County, and now own Mrs. Michaela's Grooming. I've been rescuing dogs since I was 14 years old in this community. 3 years of that I spent working full-time for the shelter, and 8 years total out there, including my volunteer time. I have firsthand experience with the animals in need in this county, and I have seen neglect and abuse that goes on here. There's a great need for these services in our community, and I am overjoyed to know now that there are 3 ACOs, as it has been much needed for many, many years now, and is finally allocated in the budget. One of the biggest struggles with that job for me was the space to house animals in need. I did not feel as though it should have been a reason not to remove an animal from an inadequate situation, or whether or not you chose to pick up a stray that day. I have been involved in situations where euthanization was needed due to medical or behavioral circumstances, and not only is it extremely hard on the people involved, it's hard on everybody else too. The people who knew the animals, the shelter staff, anybody who may or may not have seen them in the public. I don't believe that this is the answer to our overpopulation of stray, abused, or neglected and abandoned animals in this county. Reverting back to the cruel ways of the past by euthanizing animals purely for space. We're in the 21st century, and I'm sure we can find other ways to deal with this issue humanely and ethically. I was actually present for the demolition of the building at the shelter where the gas chamber was. And if we're going to revert back to that, we should have saved it, because we all know how the county likes to save a lot of money. That was a monumental day for the shelter, and I do not want to see it go back to that. We can ask the question here about who cares. Well, obviously we do. And people can speak and say they want to be here and they care about the animals in our community. And look, but you make this a law, this an ordinance in this town, everybody's going to be outraged. And then on top of that, you're going to have to deal with the 3 new ACOs who are not going to want to have their jobs anymore, because they're going to choose whether or not they're going to be the ones putting down that dog next week. It costs $90 to euthanize a dog if you've ever had to do that to your own personal pet. It's easy when they're sick and dying. It is not easy when they don't deserve to die. And I have been there when they did need it, but it's never an easy process, and that is something that you'll have to think about. $90 a dog. $90 a dog. That's what you'll be saving in the end. And I think that we can all say that it's not going to be worth it. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
My name's Janet Casbaum, Del Norte County resident. A lot of talk here today about shortcomings at the pound. I started volunteering there in October 21. In the time that when I started there was one animal control officer. Now there's two. There's an animal control supervisor. The difference is immense. I'm coming to these meetings and I'm seeing support from the board on logical ways to remedy the situation that exists out there. I think I can speak for all the volunteers that we're thrilled to have our sheriff take over the administration of that facility. And I sincerely want to take all of you for positive steps. Changes have been made. We've had fencing go up for a run. We've had a sink put in. And mostly hiring help. And that was the point I wanted to make, because there's this concern about overcapacity at the pound. Now that you've got 3 full-time staff, and hopefully 1 more staff will be added in that we could have a kennel coordinator, that crew of volunteers you have will have time to make more placements. We'll have time to do more adoption events. We'll have time to do more transports for spay and neuters. You take the jobs that paid staff will be doing and are doing and give that time back to the volunteers, I think we'll be able to keep our numbers down. And I really do appreciate this board in looking forward instead of looking backward. And I'm sorry, Darren, that you brought it to the table in a way that makes you the bad guy. But hopefully we won't go there. Thank you.
Thanks, Janet. Any other public comment? Kylie?
I'm going to move online.
Yep.
Dean, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Yeah, this is Dean Wilson,
Yes.
Former county sheriff. And I'd like to address the board for the issue of moving this to the sheriff's office at this time. I know when I took office in 2002, this was broached with me to would I be willing to accept the responsibility of taking over animal control. And at that time, we refused because of the issues dealing with the pound at the time. And those issues have not gotten any better. They've just worsened as the conditions at the pound have degraded over that time period since 2002. My issue at this point in time is to recommend that this not be placed on the sheriff, as his focus should be entirely upon the needs and demands that he is facing at this time, which are monumental. It will take years for the sheriff currently to move and to affect change at his agency to the degree that we will have a department that can provide the necessary law enforcement services. My fear is that in burdening him at this time with the dog pound, which is also in dire need of a lot of attention and money, that this will merely distract and take too much away from his focus, which needs to be on that sheriff's office. It would be far different if the pound was in good shape and if the department was in good shape. But at this time, I just do not feel that this is an area that needs to be burdened upon a brand new sheriff. Also, I know that it is best that we have this new supervisor, and perhaps the board could look at separating the pound from the Department of Agriculture and having it under a separate head so that they can focus on the needs of the department. The other issue, as an elected official, I have faced far too often in dealing with County Board of Supervisors issues, is that once it is on your plate, they like to ignore it and leave it under. And the statement I always got, well, Sheriff, what were you going to do about this? Not seeking to work together, but it was, once it became the elected official's burden, it was his burden alone. Thank you.
Next, Cody.
Jocelyn, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. My name is Jocelyn Woodrow, and I'm a resident of Del Norte County. And like everyone else here, I'm an animal lover, and I'm just here to express my support for Del Norte remaining a no-kill shelter. I think part of what concerns me is hearing when you were talking about a lot of people being upset, you said, well, we don't want, if we take away the resolution from 2009, it doesn't mean that they have to kill the shelter, just kill the animals. It will just give them more leeway. And I just don't want to see more leeway for animals to be euthanized unless they are dangerous or injured. So I'm just here to let you know that I'm with everybody else, and I want to see us find other solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Cody.
Oh, 1 second. I hit the wrong person. Viviana, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Hello, my name is Viviana Perez. I'm an owner of a pit bull bully, and I just want to say I go to the dog park a lot, and I have seen, and I have friends out there now that have gotten dogs from prison for paws, and that they've adopted them, and that they're wonderful dogs. Not just bully breeds. I mean, you have all kinds of breeds. I just feel like having supporting our county and supporting the Humane Society is the most important thing, and being pro-life with these animals. I just think that I've seen over the years, especially, that the Humane Society has been doing so many more fundraisers, doing so many things. I think if anything, we all need to come together and support them and see how we can better the problem. And really, they need to crack down on the breeding, and there's a big breeding problem, like backyard breeding, and I think also, like everyone says, just focusing on how maybe they can get help with spay and neuter. You know, if it costs $90 to put a dog down, why not pay $90 toward, you know, put that into like some kind of a, like, not a savings, but you know what I mean, like put money towards helping folks spay and neuter their animals instead of thinking about killing animals. I don't think that's going to solve an issue, because the real big issue is people are breeding animals, and it's out of control. That's all I have to really say.
Thank you.
Give me 1 moment, Chair.
Okay.
Robert, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Hello. I just, this, you know, with Darren Short, you represent District 1, and District 1 is the constituents are the poorest people in the county, and the county is about the poorest people in the state. So it always gets me is not really, you know, a lot of us can't afford to have an animal. We went through this when we had cats, and then you do irresponsible things because, you know, we didn't really get a cat. You live in a poor neighborhood. They walk into your yard, and all of a sudden it's your cat, you know? And everybody that works, you know, should be able to afford to have 2 cats in their yard. But unfortunately, we have an industry up here, you know, that most adults work in that doesn't pay a living wage, you know, unlike the government work. I noticed like the sheriff's department in one year on the budget, you know, an unfunded pension debt is about the same as what animal control cost is, just an unfunded pension debt. It almost seems like an easier solution would be to fund animal control a little better to have someone there. And the volunteers, you can't discount the volunteers. That's like a grant, you know, that's like, that's free resources, you know. When people pitch in for free, they're giving you a product you wouldn't otherwise have, you know, whether you want to say it looks like it's the prettiest situation or not. And it's also like, you know, when we used to be in the sandwich shop industry, it's kind of like the napkin in the sandwich bag, you know. The beef is what you really need to watch on your food costs, you know. And so you've got to, you know, I said, I think your own department highlighted in one year's budget that you were 70% going to all the law enforcement functions, you know. And so, but you don't bring that kind of thing up. That would actually save you, you know, huge change if you were able to say, hey, everybody cap, you know, sheriffs, you're at 12%, you're at, you know, of the general fund, you know, you'd come up with the savings. And yeah, it's hard work, but that's what you do in business, and you know, might slim down your sandwich a little bit, but sometimes that's what you got to do. And to me, the dogs kind of represent, or symbolically, you know, your poor community. And I got a dog. We got a dog, Lucky, because my kid that's allergic turned 18, so I figured I'd get a dog. And he's great, but he is the kind of dog that I think some people would, you know, we figured if we sent him back because we were scared of him that, you know, maybe things wouldn't be that great for him. But he's a really good dog now. You know, he goes to the river and doesn't attack anybody and chases butterflies and all that kind of thing. They take a little bit of extra work. You're buying a dog, you know, at the end of the agenda. So, you know, maybe there's dogs there at the, you know, there's a way to work together. You know, maybe the kids at juvenile hall could use a prison pause kind of thing. And you know what I mean? If, you know, work together to kind of spread but it's not an expensive department. I guess, you know, it's not well funded, and it was, you know, a conglomerate, you know, it was an abused department as far as the way that the supervisors fund a lot of departments that don't carry guns, that aren't punitive departments.
Thank you.
And thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Kylie?
Chair, I have no more online.
Okay. All right. With that, we'll close the public comment period. And Supervisor Howard.
Yeah, just real quick, appreciate all the public comment. It was heartfelt, moving, and definitely something that the supervisors need to take advisement on. I think we've had a really unique opportunity here in the last year with the passage of Measure R by this community, and more importantly, the funds that were committed by the public that voted for Measure R to the animal shelter. It's changed the dynamics of what was reflected on by many people in public comment here today. And moving forward, I don't think this board, in recognition of what we've seen in the past and going forward, is going to take the same position we've taken in the past about fixing and repairing things out there. And I think we've done that just by the hiring that we've done to get on top of some of the issues that you've brought to our attention. Just want to really say we appreciate it, and don't be afraid, Sheriff Scott. We're not going to let you down.
Yeah, and you know, if I not just the Measure R stuff, but the volunteers, what a huge part of that place the volunteers are. And if we didn't have the volunteers, we would be in crisis mode. You know, we talked about that with the VRBO situation, vacation rentals, that we haven't gotten to crisis mode. And because of the volunteers and because of staffing out there, we've kept from getting to that overwhelming crisis. I'm not saying that we're not in need of a lot of things out there, because we are, but we haven't gotten to that crisis state, and I have to lay that completely on the shoulders of the volunteers, and I want to thank them for all of that. Supervisor Maston.
Yeah, I just would like to pick up where some of the volunteers or the speakers talked about today, and in lieu of this solution is a preventative measure, and for us to look at a spayed and neuter ordinance, and maybe look at some samples for that.
Anybody got anything else? I feel a consensus that this is not going to change, and we're not moving forward with anything unless it's something else.
I do want to second what Supervisor Maston said, and if we could perhaps provide some direction to staff about creating a spayed or neuter ordinance, that would be my suggestion, if we don't have one.
Okay.
I mean, if my colleagues agree.
Yeah, look into it.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for attending. Thank you for your comments. We're going to move on to item number 27, which is appoint Elizabeth Holloway as the Director of Child Support Services at a range A13, Step G of the appointed department head salary schedule effective September 16th, 2022, and approve accrual rates equal to the 11 to 15 years of service tier pursuant to the appointed department head resolution to reflect Ms. Holloway's 20-plus years of local government experience, as requested by the county administrative officer.
Move to approve.
In a second.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, then we'll bring it back to the board. Kylie, would you please poll the vote?
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Maston?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Okay, budget transfers. Approve and adopt budget transfer 08-11 in the amount of $7,391 within the information technology budget unit to balance multiple lines for the 2021-2022 fiscal year as requested by the Director of Information Technology. And number 29, approve and adopt budget transfer 08-16 in the amount of $234,488 within the probation budget unit for fiscal year 2021/2022 for excess jail expenditures for AB 109 clients as requested by the Chief Probation Officer.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve budget transfer 08-11 and 08-16.
Okay, I have a motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, then we'll bring it back to the board. Kylie, please poll the vote.
Supervisor Maston?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Okay, moving on to legislative and budget issues. Item number 30, approve and authorize the purchase of a fixed asset K-9 unit prior to the adoption of the final budget due to the recent retirement of K-9 Bruno as requested by the Sheriff Coroner.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, we'll bring it back to the board. Kylie, please poll the vote.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Maston?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Did we get her done, Kylie?
We're good.
Right on. With that, we are adjourned. Next meeting is September 27th, 2022. Thank you all.